Ladies and gentlemen, it's the last episode of The Deep End for Season 7. And it's a big night. If you're like me, it's basically Christmas, which only comes every 4 years. It's election night. And for political junkies, it's the best of nights. Hopefully, for those who are on my side. Welcome to The Deep End, Season 7, Episode 44, the Election Night Special, otherwise known as your favorite night every 4 years. Yeah, we even got some special graphics, some special music tonight, and I'm so glad that you guys are here. If you are in the chat, if you're logged on, let me know that you are live with me tonight. We are going to talk about the election that you will probably stay up late maybe tonight and check out the results, see how it's going to go. It is Season 7, Episode 44 of The Deep End, and this is the last episode of The Deep End for Season 7. In fact, big news about the channel. This is the last season for The Deep End. No more seasons. It's just going to be The Deep End. We don't need to do seasons anymore. They're getting redundant. They're getting old. They're getting boring. And I like to mix things up here on the channel. So welcome in to all of you. Just want to make sure all of our listeners remember this content is for educational purposes only. And we're going to talk about the election. Now, I've got some thoughts first to just kind of calm our nerves. Raise your hand if you're nervous. Let's calm our hearts. Let's get some peace from the Prince of Peace, okay? A passage of scripture that went through my mind right before we went live comes from Psalm 2. And I love this text. See if you can see it here with me. Why do the nations rage and the peoples plot in vain? The kings of the earth set themselves and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed one, saying, let us burst their bonds apart and cast away their cords from us. He who sits in the heavens laughs. The Lord holds them in derision. Then he will speak to them in his wrath and terrify them in his fury. As for me, I have set my king on Zion, my holy hill. That passage just went through my head right before we went live. And I think it's for somebody out there who's watching the stream, who's listening. You need some peace. Look, we get nervous about leaders. We get nervous about politics. We get nervous about these crazy elections. God doesn't. God doesn't. He laughs. It's trivial to him. Is it important? Sure, because it has consequences for us. It affects our lives. But for God, it's trivial. He's the Lord of the universe. So let's enter into tonight's conversation with that as our underlayment, shall we? And I hope that helps somebody. And I'm so excited to get to the content. Here is the reality. Here's where we are. A brief history of the craziest election cycle of my lifetime. I mean, this one had it all. You know, it wasn't that long ago, May 30th, former President Trump convicted on 34 felony charges in what many people surmise, a biased New York jury, a biased New York judge, a biased New York prosecutor who went after the president over some very questionable charges. They had to extend the statute of limitations, do some legal loopholes to bring him to court and convict him. And he didn't get a fair jury. That's definitely true based on the population and the election results from 2020 in New York, downtown Manhattan, where he was convicted on the, what was it? Is that the Stormy Daniels case? Whatever. May 30th, June 27th, long time ago, but the earliest debate in election history, presidential election history. And what do we see? Joe Biden can't put a sentence together. Trump trounces him. The conversation begins. How much longer is Joe going to stay in the race? How about July 13th, just 2 weeks later? Former President Trump survives an assassination attempt by 1 inch. He turns his head to look at the screen at just the right moment. Bullet whizzes through his earlobe, and he is saved. Divine intervention, a lot of people believe so. July 15th, Republican National Convention, Trump speaks, accepts the nomination. Hulk Hogan rips off his shirt. July 21st, the Democrats finally convince President Biden he's got to drop out. He can't string sentences together. The cover-up cannot continue. His mental capacities have diminished beyond repair, and the coup is enacted, and in just 32 days from that date, Kamala Harris accepts the nomination at the Democrat National Convention. I believe that was in Chicago. back in August. And then they get to September 10th, the first debate between Trump and Harris. I mean, you got to give it to Trump. He had to debate Joe. Then he had to debate a different candidate in Harris, a much younger candidate. At least she could put sentences together. And the famous line from that debate, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. And that led to this hilarious remix.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets of the people that live there. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets of the people that live there.
Okay, that is brilliant. Then, September 30th, a second assassination attempt on Trump is thwarted at his golf course at Mar-a-Lago. Not long after that, a third potential assassin is arrested outside a Trump rally on October 14th. Finally, this past week, a comedian at a Trump rally at Madison Square Garden in New York called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage, and the news media lost their ever-loving minds, but not to be outdone by offensive rhetoric. Joe Biden stepped in it for the Democrats and called all of Trump supporters garbage. Watch.
Or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware, they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization is seen as unconscionable, and it's un-American.
Ooh, bad move, Joe. Anyway, the Trump train got a rolling with a theme of that very slanderous accusation by our sitting president about half of the nation who will be voting for Trump. And then Trump wore the garbage man vest and drove the garbage truck. And he is hoping to drive to victory. And that brings us to today, Election Day, November 5th, 2024. Or is it election week? Or is it election month? Kids, just want to let you know, it wasn't always like this. It wasn't always this entertaining, first of all. I mean, election seasons were pretty much boring. They were kind of on the back burner of everybody's mind until about the last month or week of the election. Now it's nonstop election entertainment. It probably says something about our entertainment options out there. We've got tons of them, but they're not entertaining as our elections. I mean, we have to pay attention almost 24/7. The conversations always lead to it. Water cooler conversations, pillow talk between significant others, conversations around the dinner table, conversations around Thanksgiving, conversations when you're handing out trick-or-treat candy. Come on, you're talking about it constantly. It just overwhelms your life. And I do want to say something else about the election week and month nonsense. Another thing, kids, you might not be aware of. Until Donald Trump became president in 2016, this never happened. We used to know the winner of the presidential election that night, maybe at the latest the next morning. Like 2020, I can remember 2004, it was pretty late. It was like early in the morning, and John Kerry conceded to George W. Bush. That's about the latest I can remember. Or if you go back to 2000, when George W. Bush, it took a couple of months there to work out the Supreme Court decision for Florida's recount. And I guess the common theme is, if a Republican wins, or if a Republican has a chance at winning, it has to go on and on and on. But this is where we are. And I do have another bit of commentary to do before we get to some news. And this is the question, really. Tonight's going to answer the question, or this week or this month is going to answer a very significant question for our culture. Is this the series finale of Trump? Because Trump has been a television show. It has. It's been a television show. It's been entertaining. It's been fun ever since he rode down that escalator in Trump Tower and immediately began to disrupt our obsession with political correctness. I mean, he literally took a blowtorch to the politically correct jargon that we were all oppressed by. That's why he gave voice to so many people. That's why he won so much support so early on. He said what he thought. He spoke from the heart. People did not give a rip about how it came out. He wasn't a politician. He wasn't polished, and people loved him for it. And then, of course, the contentious first comment from Trump about the illegals coming into the country. Remember this?
They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. Yeah, so that was that beginning of the Trump train, the news media immediately turning on him, people saying he was unfit for office, he's racist, he's bigoted, he's xenophobic.
So he gave us what you call the smashing of the political correctness idol. It's gone under Trump. And I have to say, it needed to be killed because you can't be politically correct all the time. It's exhausting. And it's fake. It's fake. I think every Trump supporter will say, what I do appreciate about him, even if I don't like everything he says, is that at least he just says what he means. At least he is who he is. He doesn't put on airs. And you can hate him for it, you can love him for it. But he is who he is. He also gave us, over these last 9 years, tons and tons of humor. I mean, his tweets were epic. Just a couple of the highlights from the last 9 years. This is from September 2014. Every time I speak of the haters and losers, I do so with great love and affection. They cannot help the fact that they were born effed up. Who tweets these things? Why would Kim Jong-un insult me by calling me old when I would never call him short and fat? Oh, well, I try so hard to be his friend, and maybe someday that will happen. I remember that one. Or this one. It's freezing and snowing in New York. We need global warming. To all the client alarmists out there. And then this one. If Hillary Clinton, this is a retweet. If Hillary Clinton can't satisfy her husband, what makes her think she can satisfy America? It's 2015. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un just stated the nuclear button is on his desk at all times. Will someone from his depleted and food-starved regime please inform him that I too have a nuclear button and it is much bigger and more powerful than his, and my button works. And then this last one I have, I will be announcing the most dishonest and corrupt media awards of the year on Monday at 5 o'clock. Subjects will cover dishonesty and bad reporting in various categories from the fake news media. Stay tuned. That was January 2018 in the midterm election year. He is an entertainer. He always has been an entertainer. He was in the casino business. He was in the reality TV show business. And he gave us not just entertainment on Twitter, but he gave us the Lord of the Dance. I mean, this guy can bust a move when he needs to, and he does very often. Not complicated moves, but that's what he does. Basically just fist pumps back and forth. I mean, that's as far as it goes. So the question is this the last season of Trump? That's the question. He exposed the fraudulent experts who want to control us. I always think about this headline from CNN during the height of the pandemic. President Trump is wrong in so many ways about hydroxychloroquine. Studies, here are the facts. And then just months later, study finds hydroxychloroquine helped coronavirus patients survive better. You know, that's another thing that Trump exposed over I think that's the 5th season of the Trump show. He exposed how fraudulent the experts were, how utterly misled they were, and maybe intentionally misleading us. And they were in cahoots with big government, the bureaucracy, the swamp, as Trump supporters like to call them. And so he did a lot of things to the political process. Some think it's wonderful. Some think it's Hitlerian. You got to admit, it's entertaining. It even had the dark day. I mean, every good drama has rock bottom, right? I'm speaking of January 6th. Convinced he did not lose the 2020 election, his supporters took to the nation's capital and stormed it very foolishly, very stupidly. And then stupid politicians and media personalities to this day call it an insurrection. It's not an insurrection. It's not an insurrection. There was no shots fired except at one Trump supporter who died, sadly. There was hardly any guns in anybody's hands. I don't think there was any guns in anybody's hands. And nobody was trying to take over the government. It was just a riot gone bad. 2020, the summer of 2020, left-wing riots broke out across the country. January 6th, the right-wingers were upset about the election results, and they had themselves their own day of darkness. Anyway, it was a bad day for Trump. It almost got him fully impeached. Many presidents have been partially impeached by the House. No president has been impeached fully by the Senate. And he narrowly avoided impeachment by just 10 votes shy of what the Senate needed. 57 senators voted to impeach, and 43 said no. And by the skin of his teeth, they call him Teflon Don for a reason. Nothing sticks. And now here we are. Somehow, Donald Trump has a good chance to be the first president since Grover Cleveland in 1892 to win a second term, but not consecutively. These are historic times. Nate Silver has it basically at a 50-50 shot. He ran 80,000 simulations through his computer program. Kamala Harris won 50.015% of the cases. Trump won 49.985% of the simulations. It's neck and neck. This is a serious comeback for Trump, no matter what you feel about him. And let's face it, America loves a comeback story. They do. But I don't think it's all about Trump. I think it's a lot to do with Kamala, as in word salad Kamala. This lady is not a good candidate. Okay, I don't know her personally. I can't speak for her person, but she is just not a good candidate.
Some voters, though, might ask,
Watch.
You've been in the White House for 4 years. You were vice president, not the president. But why wasn't any of that done for the last 4 years?
Well, there was a lot that was done, but there's more to do, Anderson. And I'm pointing out things that need to be done, that haven't been done, but need to be done.
You've been reluctant to lean into, to talk about the historic nature of your candidacy on the campaign trail. Why is that?
Well, I'm clearly a woman. I don't need to point that out to anyone.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
You exist in the context
Of all in which you lived and what came before you.
Like, don't hear that. Don't hear that. I eat no for breakfast. That's my saying.
Well,
I eat no for breakfast.
Okay, we can go on and on. We all know, and I also think this has something to do with it. This lady loves to laugh.
Poor hubby. Poor hubby.
Man. Yeah, she is one heck of a cackler. My. She's got a gift. The joy of the cackle. But she makes some dumb mistakes. I mean, the word salads are one thing. Here she was in Phoenix campaigning and making the case for her election because she's worked hard for so many people who have harmed so many other people. Watch.
And I have fought for many who have harmed other human beings.
So she's very fake as well. I mean, I know this is her first go around for a national election. You have to remember that she didn't even make it past. She didn't even make it to Iowa. Okay, in 2019, 2020, the Democratic electorate did not see fit to see her go past Iowa in 2020. But she was handed this position because she was black and a woman. Now, my saying that, of course, makes me a racist bigot, but that's exactly what Joe Biden said he was going to do. He's going to pick a black woman to be his vice president. Then he goes and picks her, and everybody says, well, you picked a black woman, and you say that he picked a black woman, now you're the racist and you're the bigot. That's how it works. You're always the racist, the bigot. They do it, you call them out on it, you're the racist. Doesn't matter how it goes, you're always the racist. And so last night she was campaigning in Pennsylvania well into the night. Good for her. But then this terrible moment went down where she was faking a genuine political door-knocking moment, and she got caught in 4K. Watch.
Oh, you want to do a door knock?
She wants to go and have them go inside and knock on the door, and then let the cameras catch her campaigning by knocking on their door. Oh, fake. That is bad. I'm telling you. So this is major Hollywood angling here of their preferred candidate. We all know that all the P. Diddy party celebrities are coming out and endorsing her, coming to her rallies, speaking on her behalf, making clear that if we don't vote for her, we are less than human, and on and on and on it goes. I mean, I've always seen the Democrats get the lion's share of Hollywood endorsements, but I've never seen them campaign so ferociously for a Democrat candidate as this time, and it makes you just beg the question, what do they have on these celebrities? Seriously, what went on at those Diddy parties? Diddy's under arrest. Remember this. He is in holding right now. There is a case to be had against him, and he's got names and he's got lists, and I think a lot of these people that you are seeing come out and support Kamala so ferociously might just be on that list. So Trump is tied with this woman. It's up in the air. We don't know what's going to happen. Maybe we're nervous. Here's some news for Trump that's pretty good. This is today, CNN showing an exit poll from people going to the polls saying they were only 7% enthusiastic about the way things are going in the U.S.
A dour mood in terms of the way people feel things are going in the United States. Nationally, only 7% of voters say they're enthusiastic. 19% say they're satisfied. Look at these numbers. 43% dissatisfied, 29% angry, 72% of the electorate nationally say they're dissatisfied or angry.
So that's not good for Kamala. That's not good for the present ruling regime. But let's be honest, that's not the biggest news of the day. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but the highlight of this election season might come down to a squirrel. Let's do Deep End News.
Deep End News. The news you choose if you could choose news.
Ladies and gentlemen, for Peanut. Rest in peace. You were famous, Instagram famous, I guess. 534,000 followers on Instagram for a squirrel. Makes me ask, what am I doing with my life? TikTok famous, followers galore. Now he has a Wikipedia page. And sadly, on November 1st, just a few days ago, he met his demise. Not naturally. No, a neighbor complained, an anonymous neighbor, as far as we know so far, in the state of New York, sent 12 state agents to his house to remove Peanut from his owner. Peanut was taken along with a pet raccoon named Fred, and this was in the Pine City, New York neighborhood. The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation saw it as a crime for Peanut to be domesticated, and then he was euthanized along with his cohabitant Fred the raccoon and tested for rabies. This is a video montage of his Instagram page. It's cute. I mean, I wouldn't do it, but this guy seemed to enjoy it. Mark Longo, Pine City, New York. It's kind of interesting. You know, we're Americans, right? That's what we believe. What you do in the privacy of your home is your business. At least that's what I thought it was about, but I guess that's only when it's regarding sex between consenting adults. I guess that's the only thing, right, that is okay by the regime. Now, this is a big deal because, you know, New York is a deep blue state, and they raided this guy's house. And here he is testifying on TMZ about what they did to come and take his pet out of his house and then euthanize him. Very sad. Watch.
It not only tears my family apart, but Peanut was the cornerstone of our nonprofit animal rescue. And 10 to 12 DEC officers raided my house as if I was a drug dealer. I was sat outside my house for 5 hours. I had to get a police escort to my bathroom. I wasn't even allowed to feed my rescue horses breakfast or lunch. I was sat there like a criminal after they interrogated my wife to check out her immigration status, then proceeded to ask me if I had cameras in my house, then proceeded to go through every cabinet, nook, and cranny of my house for a squirrel and a raccoon.
My friends, this is very bad for the state of New York. If they can come for your squirrel, what can't they come for? And I guess this guy didn't have a permit or something, or he didn't get the license necessary to house the squirrel and raccoon, but it's not a good look. It's not a good look for the state of New York, where you've got crime everywhere, and you're going after the squirrel with 500,000 Instagram followers. That's going to tick off a lot of people. Why is this? What does this have to do with the election? Well, what it has to do with the election is it just shows you how big and invasive our government could get. They could come for your pets. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. I mean, what is next in this society of big government? How big do you want your government? I don't want my government that big. I don't. And by the way, anonymous neighbor who reported this guy, you deserve a smackdown. Because what on earth? What kind of a neighbor are you? Just log on and like the content. What did he do to you? What did Peanut do to you? Steal a couple of acorns while you were raking your yard? What did he? Seriously, this is not right. And it's not about the squirrel. It's about government. Anyway, a lot of outcry. Bomb threats are being posed at the New York State offices at the people who euthanized Peanut the squirrel, leading to the employees being given the day off or work from home. This is a story of government overreach. I mean, how big do you want your government to be? I don't want my government controlling my life. A lot of people, right, who would say, my body, my choice. Well, what about my squirrel, my choice? What about my raccoon, my choice? What about my dog, my choice? It's kind of funny. That's really the argument about politics. How much of the government do you want in which area of your life? And I say too much. Anyway, this is spoofed all over the internet. There was this funny political ad that was produced.
It wasn't always like this.
For Peanut.
They arrested Peanut, found him guilty, and murdered him.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't be laughing.
The chaos spread. And now all we have are memories of Peanut.
People are clever. And did you notice that was all AI video? Which, this is a preview of coming attractions for the next election cycle. I want to tell you what's going to happen in 2028. You are going to have to do serious due diligence before you believe what you see on video. Because this is 2024 level video AI. When we get 4 years ahead and the exponential rate of learning for these artificial machines and the chips being produced and the technology getting better, we're going to have tons of misinformation campaigns in 4 years, and Congress might have to act. I don't know, because you don't want to base your vote on something that's fake, right? You don't want to base your vote on something that was produced by AI. We still want to have a choice in our election that's informed, that's educated, that's knowledgeable. This was what's going to happen. I mean, how long did it take for that video to come out? I mean, it's not long, but it's incredibly detailed, looks real. Well, you can tell it's AI, but at some point we're not going to be able to tell it's AI. And then they're going to use the faces of political candidates to intimidate voters. Speaking of intimidation, we have reached a level of peak paranoia. This happens every election cycle. Every election cycle we hear two things. This is the most important election of our lifetime. Well, of course it is. I said this on Sunday to my church, because it's the one that hasn't been decided yet. The election of 1892 was decided. The election of 1964 was decided. Those are done. They're not important anymore. They were important. They're not anymore. This is all, the one coming up is always the most important election of our lifetime. Do you know what's more important than 2024? 2028. Okay? That's how it works. So don't get paranoid, but leave it to our celebrity endorsements to make sure that we're on full paranoia alert. Here's Oprah Winfrey campaigning for Kamala the other night.
We don't get to sit this one out. If we don't show up tomorrow, it is entirely possible that we will not have the opportunity to ever cast a ballot again.
Okay. Not to be outdone, however, even on the right, and this is a new team member to the right, one Elon Musk, who I so appreciate because his purchase of Twitter changed the game electorally, changed the game nationally. Really, one of the most important moments, I think, in the last, 20 or so years. Really, it was. Anyway, he unburdened Twitter from the suppression and the manipulation, the algorithmic manipulation from the political left. But he went on with Joe Rogan, I think this was last night or the night before, and said basically the same thing.
Well, I'll say it again, man. I think this was the last election. If Trump doesn't win, this is the last election.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think people, and a lot of people are waking up and realize that have been lifelong Democrats. Guys like Bill Ackman, guys like Chamath.
Yeah, exactly.
Tulsi Gabbard switched over to the Republicans. Like, there's a lot of people who their whole life they've been left wing and they realize, like, I can't do this anymore.
You and I used to be Democrats.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
It's nuts, man. And if the Dems win this election, they will legalize enough illegals to turn the swing states, and everywhere will be like California. There will be no escape.
That is so insane.
This is the final. This is it. This is the last chance.
I mean, that's what they think. It's fear. In some ways, it's fear-mongering. Some might say, no, I agree with that. What do you think? Let me know in your comments. Because I think it's fear-mongering. Because I've been through this so many times now. I'm 48. I was born in an election year. Yeah, I was born right before Jimmy Carter got elected, like 3 months before. I remember staying up late. This is how much of a political nut job I am. I stayed up late to watch Ronald Reagan get reelected. It didn't take long. I think that was done by like 5 p.m. that day because he won 49 states to Walter Mondale's 1. But I've watched all these elections every single time. It's the most important. Oh my gosh, it's the last one. This is the last chance. And then we've got people like Whoopi Goldberg who's going to say, look, they're going to tear up interracial marriages. Whoopi, get a grip. Honestly, the latest at The View. I used to love Whoopi's movies. What has happened to this girl? She needs therapy. Watch.
All of you. Talking about you, it's us. He's not going to say, oh, you're with a white guy, I'm going to keep you from being deported. No, he's going to deport you and put the white guy with someone else. The man is out there.
He's also,
No, you're out there, Whoopi. Honestly, I can't believe that came out of her mouth. Trump's going to go into your house, deport your, non-white husband or wife, and then going to find you. He's going to be a matchmaker. This is where Trump's going. He wants to be in the matchmaking business. Would make a great reality TV show, The President of Love. And he goes out and he finds you a new spouse. That's what he does. I could just see you with her. I mean, you couldn't see that at the boardroom instead of the celebrity, instead of the Apprentice show. He's there sitting there telling people who they need to marry. And then you have peak paranoia toward the other. This is what I hate about our election season is because we turn on each other as Americans. And there's a good chance, if you were in a public place today, that you were surrounded by 50% of the other party or other supporters. It's a good chance just based on the numbers. Okay? These are people you have to live with. You have to do business with. You have to engage in economy with. Be careful that you don't hate them. Be careful that you don't demonize them, as Joy Behar does, maybe humorously here on The View, but she says she doesn't want anybody to even save her life if she's from the Trump side. Watch.
I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't even let him give me a Heimlich maneuver.
Yeah.
That's how little I feel about people. I don't know.
Well, and a MAGA supporter is like
Calling you right now.
I got it.
Somebody's.
I fixed it.
Tell that MAGA man, leave you alone.
I'm not sleeping with you anymore.
Okay, so yeah, I don't get this extreme hatred of the other side. They disagree with you, Joy. That's all. But the conversation on the left is that Trump is going to pass a national abortion ban. Project 2025 is going to implement all kinds of changes. They're going to take interracial marriages apart. They're going to ban gay marriage. They're going to ban abortion, blah, blah, blah. All the things that the left-wing people love to do with their genitals will no longer be legal under the Trump term. Can I remind these people, these paranoia addicts, that the Congress passes laws. The president signs the law or the bill into law. The Congress writes the law. The president signs the bill into law. That's how it works. So you're only getting a national abortion ban if 60 senators can agree on it. You're only going to get thumbs up. You're only going to get a national ban on gay marriage if 60 senators vote on it. It's not going to happen because our Senate is divided 50-50 and there are moderates on both sides. So you really have to do a lot of work to get those 60 votes. Meanwhile, college campuses, not to be outdone, they are setting up their safety places, their safe spaces. Here is the University of Colorado, Denver. They've announced a safe space for coping for the events following the November 5th election. These are adult students. These are kids who are 18 to 24 years old, and their college has to coddle them into a safe place because they didn't go to a civics class in high school and evidently avoided a civics class all during college. I guess they were learning how to pick their gender all that time. But they are no longer taught about elections and democracy and the fact that we're a republic and that we can swing from one side to the other. That's what America's been doing for a good portion of its history. Swinging from the right to the left. How much government? Maybe too much government. How much more government? Too much government. I think we're long overdue for too much government. We need to get back to a little bit less government in our life. Actually, a lot less government. And speaking of government and why it's gotten too big, this is the question I have for you tonight. When will the count be complete? Seriously, I have this weird suspicion, and I hope I'm wrong, we might be in for 2020 Part 2. Unless there's a landslide. Unless there's a landslide, we won't know the results of this election for weeks. I mean, the media is already prepping us for this. Here's the Today Show talking about how it's going to take days or a week to count the votes in Nevada, a key swing state.
The way I said, so she wins North Carolina. We could be living here in Nevada waiting and waiting and waiting. And if you remember, Nevada will take a week to count all their votes.
Well,
And
because
we'll
they go
litigate
4 days after.
and you'll have more ballots coming in.
Yeah.
And then you're really going to be used a lot on air because this is going to be lawyers upon lawyers litigating which ballots can get fixed or cured is the language you'll start to see.
Okay, so did you hear the two key terms? This guy's going to be on TV getting a lot of work. So it's good for the news. It's good for the lawyers. It's bad for you. Here's the Maricopa County election official saying that the election results for that very dubious county in Arizona from 2020 is going to take over a week, 10 to 13 days.
Well, we've got one of the most secure ways for our ballot-by-mail ballots to be processed. As a matter of fact, just the processing of one tray of 200 ballots takes about an hour for our bipartisan teams to run through to...
What? One tray takes an hour? What kind of people are we hiring for these positions?
Audit to make sure that what had previously already gone through signature verification process gets pulled out of the envelope properly so that it get moved to tabulation. This is a very, very thorough set of processing that we go through. And I would say that it's probably more thorough than just about any other state in the nation.
Is it just me or is this guy enjoying this moment a little bit too much? I think he's like the power goes to the head of the official. You ever see this person? Someone gets a little bit of power. They get a little position. It starts when you're in middle school and you get, hall monitor duty. Before you know it, you're checking everybody, skipping steps. You're skipping steps. Go to the teacher. I mean, that's where we are as in the human condition. And our election officials, I think the power has gone to their head. And I think that there is a vested interest in the news media so that they can stay in your face longer and sell more airtime to the advertisers. And there's a vested interest in the lawyers who are going to bring these lawsuits left, right, and center from both sides of the aisle to see if they can get a few ballots turned over to the other side. And it may not even happen at all. I fear for the Republic. Kids, there was a time when we knew the results of the presidential election in the early hours of the evening, sometimes 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. But Donald Trump got elected and the whole machine threw a hissy fit. Here's a Democrat Party chair in Wisconsin, Ben Wilker, bragging on the fact that it's going to take weeks.
Ballot results until the count is finished in the central count facilities. So in Milwaukee, you'll see 100% of precincts reporting before you see the numbers that come out of those early votes in person and those absentee ballots, which my guess is are heavily weighted towards Harris supporters. In Green Bay, they won't report anything until they've counted the absentee ballots and the in-person election day votes. So that means that you're going to see a red mirage where it seems like Trump is doing better than he actually is because they haven't counted and reported those absentee ballots yet. And then the blue shift when those ballots are introduced to add to the totals, that could be in the middle of the night. It certainly was in 2020. So if you're watching Wisconsin...
In the middle of the night, 2020 redo, at least that's what that Democrat official wants to have happen. And then, of course, there are nefarious reports of problems in precincts and voting machines going down, such as this one in the Navajo Nation in Arizona.
We're also following a developing story on the Navajo Nation. Navajo President Boo Nygren says voting machines are down in Apache County. That borders northwestern New Mexico and includes Window Rock. Nygren also says some voters are being turned away without casting a ballot. He says you should ask for a provisional ballot and make sure to bring your government-issued ID.
Okay, so news like that does not settle the heart. Does not. What kind of nefarious practices are undermined? But that county, the Navajo Nation, actually endorsed Kamala Harris, so take every what it's worth. Keep in mind, other far less advanced countries can get it done much faster. France finishes their election the same night. United Kingdom by the next morning. India, one of the largest population countries in the world, gets their elections done within a day. Canada, late evening on election day, results are out. Brazil, within hours of the polls closing. Japan, by the following morning. South Africa, 1 to 2 days max. America, weeks. There we go. I had those up there for you. That's the difference that we've got to. Because Donald Trump won an election that Hillary Clinton should have won. And ever since that day, that fateful end of the Republic Day, now our elections have become month-long processes. I'm hoping for a landslide victory. I'm hoping. I know you probably are too, because that's the only way you shut this down and we move forward. Otherwise, this is going to happen every single election season. And then some of you who wouldn't vote for Trump, okay, but you'll say, I just think that the Republicans got to nominate somebody who's a little bit softer, a little bit nicer, a little bit more, commonplace. Okay, I will remind you that in the early primary process of this last election cycle, when Ron DeSantis looked like he had a fighting chance against Donald Trump, they were already calling him Hitler from the left. They were already calling him a Nazi, and they were already digging up dirt from his past to expose to you. Don't you understand? We go through this cycle every single time. I was convinced by the political left and the mainstream media that George W. Bush was Hitler incarnate. I was convinced that Mitt Romney was going to put black people in chains. In fact, Joe Biden, our sitting president right now, campaigned in 2012 against Mitt Romney, saying that Mitt Romney was going to put black people back in chains. Literally said that from a campaign stage. It happens every single election season. The complicit left-wing biased media sides with the Democrats, becomes basically their talking points, and on and on and on it goes. So the only way to shut them up at this point, in my opinion, is a landslide victory or a decisive victory. Landslide, maybe I'm asking for too much. A decisive victory. We'll see what happens. By the way, we have something special tonight that I can put up on the screen here, an election tracker. This is live results coming in. So as of right now, Trump has 23 electoral votes. He's 5,900,057 votes. Harris has 3 electoral votes. She's got Vermont. Trump has West Virginia, Kentucky, Indiana. And it looks red for Ohio. Georgia's looking good. Florida, of course, now is a deep red state. South Carolina, deep red state. But a long way to go. I have been through many election nights. Don't fall for the early results. I will warn you on that. You will be disappointed. And I would just like to conclude my talks because we've got some people waiting in the wings. We're going to have some fun tonight. We're going to have some conversation, and I want you to be a part of it. So you make sure that you chat along with us. We've got a Zoom call with some dependable some Deep End or Tim Hatch Live team members tonight, and they're going to be joining me in just a moment. But I want to just close out my content with some pastoral guidance, biblical guidance on government. I think we have to put some things into perspective. Like Psalm 2 tells us, the nations rage, the rulers take their stand, they plot, they scheme, but God in heaven laughs. In God's perspective, it's like ants trying to take over your front door. What do? You get scared? No, you shove them away, you stomp them out, you get some spray, it's over. That's how God sees our government. It's in his hands. But I want to give you some peace of mind tonight because I think that's what a pastor should do. So biblical guidance on government. Number one, God's king and kingdom are at work under the auspices of the enemy's kingdom. That's how it's always been. And some Christians don't get this, but you have to remember that God's kingdom is always under the auspices of the enemy's kingdom. We are on enemy territory. This world belongs to the devil. He's the God of this world. Abraham goes to the land and he lives this long life. He gets a son. He gets a few more sons, but he dies. And the only thing he owns in the promised land is a grave. And then he dies. God promises the land. He dies with a grave. That's all he owns. His descendants multiply. But where do they multiply? Under the domain of Egypt while they're enslaved. The more they were oppressed, the more they grew, the Bible says. And then God rebukes these wicked nations and rulers who hurt and harm his people, sometimes through 10 miraculous plagues like with Egypt. Or later in the prophets, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Amos, and Habakkuk, he rebukes with words, not just the people of Israel, but the foreign nations. Read Isaiah, read Amos, read these Old Testament prophets. They don't just rebuke God's people and God's nation, Israel. They rebuke Babylon. They rebuke Edom. They rebuke all of these other nations. Jonah goes to Nineveh and rebukes and they repent. Nahum goes back and rebukes them and they don't repent and God wipes them out. Okay? God's king and kingdom always operate under the auspices of the enemy's kingdom. Believers are always and constantly in political office. Some Christians are convinced that we're not supposed to operate in political office. That's crazy talk. In the Old Testament, you have Joseph, who's the prime minister of Egypt. You have David, who's the king of Israel. Naaman, the general in Syria. Daniel in Babylon is prime minister. Mordecai becomes second in command in Persia after the events of Haman's audacity to try to kill the Jews. Nehemiah is given great authority from the king of Persia to go to Jerusalem and rebuild it. In the New Testament, do you understand? The 2 first Gentile converts to the faith were political officials. The Ethiopian eunuch, who was one of the right-hand men of Candace the queen and Cornelius the centurion leader in Acts 10, the gospel opens the doors to the Gentiles through political officials. Sergius Paulus, the Roman proconsul who served as the governor of Cyprus under Roman authority, is converted in Acts under the preaching of Paul. The Philippian jailer comes to Christ in Acts chapter 16. That was a high political official. You have to understand, God's got believers and puts believers in political office. Am I saying Trump's a believer? No. Am I saying Kamala's a believer? Absolutely not. We don't know. We don't know where their hearts are. I pray they both come to Christ. I pray that God puts believers in their cabinets. I pray God puts believers in their, immediate staff so that there's influence, so that there's someone there with godly values and salt and light in the midst of that dark place. And then you got to also understand, and this is hard to believe, but God appoints rulers both evil and good. Both evil and good. Daniel 2:21, he sets up kings, he tears down kings. And then you have to understand that the state is an institution established by God. Now, with that in mind, when we talk about the state, the Bible talks about this in Romans chapter 13. Let every person be subject to the governing authorities. There is no authority except what God has put in place, and those that exist have been instituted by God. So God's kingdom is part of the government. Yeah, they are his tools. Later on in that text, it says, don't do evil. If you don't want to fear the government, don't do evil. Do what is right. But there are times when believers have to acknowledge that their first allegiance is to God, not government. So even if you support Trump, your first allegiance is not to him. Your first allegiance is not to this country. Don't think that Trump's win, evangelical Christians, means now God can really get to work. No. God's been working under Biden. God's been working through Kamala. God's been working all through our history. He is the Lord of history, okay? But when they ask us to break our faith, we have plenty of biblical evidence, narratives that teach us we do not go along with it. Sifra and Puah in Exodus, they do not kill the babies born to the Jews. Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they all refuse to bow and worship and stop praying. Acts chapter 4, the apostles preach without the government approval. Revelation 13, in the end times, believers are going to have to stop what the nations call them to do, what the beast and the one world leader calls them to do. We cannot worship the beast. And then ultimately, God is the authority over all authority. All authority derives from him. And there are certain authorities that we have got to respect as Christians. Number one, God is the ultimate authority. Number two, we got to respect the home. Parents got to get their authority swag back. You are in charge of the kids. The kids are not in charge of you. It's honor thy father and mother, okay? You don't obey them, they obey you. The church is a picture of God's authority. Get yourself into a church with elders and leaders who have spiritual authority over your life. That's a good thing for you. They're there to protect you. They're not there to tell you what to do. They're there to guide you in the way of Christ. Then the government is part of that authority system, employers, and then internally in the life of the believer, you have the Holy Spirit. But ultimately, the state serves as God's instrument to restrain evil. You want your state leader, your head of state, to restrain evil. Let me think. War. Unending, never stop funding wars. I want them to stop. You? I remember under the Trump years, there was no war. He was the first president who had a successful singular term with no new wars in my lifetime, I think. Unbelievable. I like that. I want the president. I don't want the president to be my pastor. I don't want the president to be, my flavor of personality. I want him to strike fear into the terror regimes around the world. I don't want my president funding Iran, which both Obama and Biden have done. I don't want my president not talking to dictators and just demonizing them on our soil. It's easy to throw rocks at Putin, but sitting down and having a conversation with him, making sure that he doesn't act stupidly, might be a good thing. Trump gets eviscerated for doing that. I don't understand that. Putin invaded Georgia under George W. Bush. He annexed Crimea under Obama. He did nothing under Trump, and now he's invaded Ukraine under Biden. Something tells me that Trump stopped the wars. You can disagree, but the evidence speaks for itself. Which brings me to this question. How could I, a pastor, vote for Trump? Because I hear some people say, oh my goodness, you're a pastor. He was a moral man. He was he sleeps with prostitutes and, or porn stars, porn stars. And he's cheated on his wives and he's, boisterous and braggadocious and arrogant. And he's now a convicted felon. Okay, I get it. But he's not my pastor. He's my president. And I'm not looking for him to be my shepherd. I'm looking for him to be the protector of the country. And Christians have to prioritize the policies over the personality. You do. Look, the Democrats had no problem with this when Bill Clinton was in the Oval Office having sex with Monica Lewinsky. They used to be all about policy over personality. Now they're the party of morality. It's switched. It's flipped. Now we have a Bill Clinton-esque type figure in the Republican Party, and it's unacceptable. Where was that outrage when Bill Clinton, while in office, in the Oval Office, was having sex with Monica Lewinsky? Where was that outrage? It's just feigned outrage because they just need abortion to be legal. That's really what it is. The sacred sacrament of the secular is abortion. They need to kill the babies before they're born because they don't want the responsibility when they're not ready for it. So when Christians come down on politics, they have to look at policies. Which party will be more for the sanctity of life, the sanctity of marriage, protect religious liberties? Which party believes that the family should be male-female, husband-wife, leading the children? Which party stands for America over other countries? Which party is not committed to the complete obliteration of the gender binary? How about that one? Democrats are completely all in on the transgender madness and establishing leaders throughout the federal government who will promote this philosophy through public education and the prison systems. Seriously, we've got a problem when Kamala Harris wants to fund sex changes for prisoners. Preview of coming attractions. And as a community of saints, we are committed, Christians, to biblical truth, and we cannot support policies that conflict with God's word. We cannot. And we're always going to pick the lesser of two evils because, as I said in the beginning, the kingdom of God, for whatever reason, this is how God has mapped it out. The kingdom of God operates under the auspices of the kingdom of darkness. We're on enemy territory. So we're picking leaders, less than good leaders, less than perfect leaders. That's all we have ever picked for president ever in our history. Okay? In fact, the closest to perfect leader we ever picked was Jimmy Carter, and he was a terrible president. So we've got to choose the leader that most associates with biblical values in their policies. Speaking of transgender madness, I do have to do this follow-up segment here. Remember the Algerian boxer Iman Khif who claimed that he was a woman and then proceeded to beat up women all summer and got a gold medal for it? Turns out a leaked report from the French now, a medical report from the French, finds he has XY chromosomes, testicles, and a penis. But that never mattered because in the left-wing secular world, words and feelings are who you are. They don't even know what a woman is. Biology doesn't matter. So in a left-wing secular progressive society that the Democrats have been all in for the last 4 years, girls get beat up by a guy and a guy gets awarded for it. That, my friends, is madness. That, my friends, is insanity. As a Christian, I cannot vote for that. I cannot support that. You say, well, the Democrats care for the poor. Okay, let me show you this chart of the poverty level in America since Joe Biden took office. In fact, it goes back to 2017. You can see poverty level going down under the Trump administration, 2020. It still goes down to the first year of the Biden administration. Look at the sharp uptick. And these are official statistics, by the way. Poverty has gotten worse under Joe Biden. Real wages have gone down. And that's where we are as a society. A vote for Kamala Harris is a vote for the things that she has agreed to and campaigned on. Opposition to religious exemptions in abortion laws, commitment to national abortion rights with no restrictions. She supports regulating or even shutting down pro-life pregnancy resource centers. She supports decriminalization of sex work, prostitution. She supports DEI initiatives which rob you of a meritocracy and lower the motivational factor in work and in effort. She wants to end the filibuster in the Senate. That's a 60-vote requirement for passing serious legislation. One of those legislations she wants to pass is the Green New Deal, which would cost taxpayers $90 trillion. She's a co-sponsor of the Green New Deal. Up until a couple of months ago, she used to be called the most liberal senator in our Senate until they scrubbed that website and removed it to protect dear future leader. During her term as vice president, free speech was under attack. Biden's Homeland Security Secretary, Alejandro Mayorkas, established a disinformation governance board compared to George Orwell's Ministry of Truth. They want to come after the Second Amendment. They want to force you to sell back your weapons to the government. What has Biden and Harris done for the last 4 years? They've blown out the federal government spending. is increased by $36,000 per household. Tax revenue, $17,000 per household. National debt, $29,000 per household. Federal spending has surged $4.7 trillion above administration projections. That's a 75% increase from 2019, the year before they entered office. She has in the past had a bias against Catholic people in government. She held judicial nominees under religious scrutiny, questioning their membership in the Knights of Columbus, a Catholic fraternal organization. She has helped fund the rioters from the 2020 riots and tweeting out support for the Minnesota Freedom Fund to release these rioters and thugs out on bail. And all they did was go out and repeat the crimes and do worse things. In her work as California DA, she opposed religious liberty and supported gender ideology in schools. She filed a brief in support of mandating Hobby Lobby covered contraception despite the owner's religious objections to doing so. She supports gender reassignment surgeries for inmates. She supports gender-affirming health care for minors through the HHS directives. She's seeking to eliminate the age limits for drugs that would be applied as puberty blockers to children. This is Kamala Harris's campaign. This is what a vote for Kamala Harris gets you. Insane. As a Christian, I do not see how you can vote for her. I just got one more video. I got to show you this. This is something. This is a man on the street telling this lady who he's going to vote for. Just take a look at this guy, and you guess who he's voting for.
Do you know who you're voting for?
I do. Kamala Harris.
Camilla. That's a new one. What's one of your favorite policies of hers?
There's quite a few, but I'm looking forward to it because I'm about to be a home buyer. So I'm hoping that she gets the first-time home buyers thing to go up. And
what kind of house?
Get to move into a really nice home.
And then this is what she's run on. Abortion, abortion, abortion. Now listen to this dad basically break into tears because he's voting for his children to be able to kill their offspring. Watch.
Who did you vote for today?
I voted for Kamala Harris.
Why is that?
I have 3 daughters, 4 children overall, and women's rights is pretty important to them and my daughters. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional about that. I didn't think that I was going to do that, but
what a beta male.
Just their bodies, their choice type of a mentality. I want them to grow up in a world that's welcoming to everybody. So yeah, that's why I cast my vote today.
Oh my word. Here's his key, linchpin issue. World War III? Ukraine getting more billions of dollars from us? Men playing women's sports and beating them up in the boxing ring? Puberty blockers for young children that will sterilize them for life? Young women being raped in prisons because they're in prisons with biological males? Young women being raped and murdered by illegal immigrants on the streets? I really want my daughters to get abortions. That's what I want. I want my grandchildren killed before they have a chance to breathe. That's the Kamala Harris campaign in a nutshell. Abortion, abortion, abortion. And then you have to ask yourself, who's the target? Who's the target audience, right? When they put out their ads. I got a couple ads, and I promise you we're going to get to our conversation. My conversation in Zoom is waiting for me. We're going to get to it. I got to give you one more thing. The Trump ads and the Kamala ads, because these are diametrically different. Let me show you this Trump ad that was put out this past week. Watch.
8 years ago, one man had the courage to step forward, to take on the corrupt ruling class, to battle the Washington insiders who raided our factories, pried open our borders, and sent our best Americans to die in desert wars overseas. But the corrupt system fought back. They could never forgive him for taking away their power and giving it to you.
January 20th, 2017 will be remembered as the day the people became the rulers of this nation again.
So they came after his family, his business, and his freedom. One hoax, one injustice after another. But Donald J. Trump pressed on because he wasn't fighting for himself. He was fighting for you.
They're not coming after me, they're coming after you, and I'm just standing in their way.
The Democrat Party tried to throw their opponent behind bars, but Donald Trump would not bow down to tyranny.
I will never quit, I will never bend, I will never break, I will never yield, not even in the face of death.
And that goes on, and that's the Trump ad. There's another Trump ad. I'm going to skip that one. But let me just show you. Again, this matters about who are they targeting. Who are they targeting? Here's an interesting ad from an ad ploy from the Kamala Harris campaign. Are you ashamed to vote for Kamala? Good news. You can hide when you vote for her. This is an interesting take. I don't know what campaign, Ivy League graduate came up with this idea, but just take a look at this.
Come on, boys. Let's make America great again.
So supposed Trump voter.
It's your turn, buddy.
Before you cast your vote in this election, think about how it'll impact the people you care about the most.
And again, daughters.
Daddy! Remember, you can vote any way you want, and no one will ever know.
Do your patriotic duty.
You bet I did, brother. What happens in the booth stays in the booth. Vote Harris Walls.
Paid for by Vote Common Good.
The kid's like, what, 10 years old in that video? And is this, again, about abortion? So that in, 15 years when she's, a young 20-something-year-old lady and she wants to have consequence-free sex, she can kill the kid if she gets pregnant by accident? Like, that's the play here? Ugh. And then this one had me particularly perturbed as a pastor because this one just cuts between husband and wife. Watch.
Your turn, honey.
In the one place in America where women still have a right to choose, you can vote any way you want. And no one will ever know.
Did you make the right choice?
Sure did, honey. Remember, what happens in the booth stays in the booth. Vote Harris Walls.
So, husband against wife. And that's an interesting play, I guess. If you have problems in your marriage, you and your husband can't get along, you want to, make sure that you have your right to abortion and trick him. This is deception being introduced into a marriage, courtesy the Kamala campaign. Anyway, that's where we are as a country. That's the campaigns in a nutshell. Now we're going to go and have our conversation. And I want you to be involved, guys. I want you to be involved. So chat it up because we're going to bring you up on the screen as well. But we're going to welcome in the dependable Tim Hatch Live team. Let's do it. All right, there they are, the dependables. I hope you guys have all unmuted your mics. Welcome to the Deep End Election Special. Doug and Carr.
So chat it up.
Oh, you guys gotta mute me as well, by the way. You guys gotta mute me. And there's Kelly, she's my assistant. There's Brandon, he runs all of our social and the back end of Tim Hatch Live. And then there's Brent, he's one of our contributors here on the channel. Say hello to them in the chat. These wonderful people help me look intelligent. Of course, they don't add too much to that equation. Just want to let you know. Just kidding.
What's up, chat? How's it going?
Yes, hello, chat.
I do have really quick breaking news. Officially, Florida has been taken by Trump, which is funny because I've been watching this whole time, but just over 1 million votes. But they officially gave Trump to Florida, and they've got some new polling coming in. So I'm watching this live.
Yep.
You got the map there?
Oklahoma, I've got the map. I don't know. If I go to the election tracker, I hope you guys don't get cut off. Speak for a second.
I'm here.
Yeah, you're going to get cut off because you're not part of that scene. But I'm putting the election tracker up now, and then I'll come back to you guys. So, yeah, there's our current election tracker map, 95 Trump, 35 Harris. But again, don't get excited. These are very early incoming results. And now I see, well, look, all right, here's an example. On the election tracker, you've got Texas is tainted blue, light blue, right? So that's showing you that Dallas is coming in. That's showing you that San Antonio is coming in. The major metropolitans are coming in. So that's left-leaning areas. It's county by county. And so there's no way Texas is going blue. But that's what it's showing you. So Georgia is leaning red, Pennsylvania leaning blue, Ohio leaning blue. I mean, way too early. But we want to just have a chat. We want to hang out with you guys here on the chat as well. So what do we got in our hearts, guys? What are we feeling? We talked about this on our pre-show meeting. 1 to 10, how confident are you of a Trump victory? Who wants to go first?
Well, my job here is to be fair and balanced. So Doug and Carr is going to make sure that the left blue people get some representation. Having said that, I'm at about a 10 that Trump's going to win.
Really? Still a 10, because you were a 10 on Monday, and now you're still a 10.
I'm more of a 10 now. I'm seeing these exit polls.
What are you seeing? What are you seeing for exit polls? Give us the...
Sky News said that the exit polls are disastrous for Kamala Harris.
Sky News? Sky News, left-leaning, right-leaning. That's what you always have to think about. Like, who's...
It's part of a Fox network, I think.
Yeah.
I think they're the foreign equivalent to Fox.
So, right-leaning.
We're seeing, though, something that does look good is Georgia. Their exit polls for independents have them up 20 points for Trump, which is interesting because I believe that they were, 7 points to Biden last election, if I remember correctly. So that's a positive. I'm feeling a little positive. I was a 7 before. I'll eke up to an 8.
Oh, so you're improving.
I'm improving. The exit polls are making me feel a little bit better, but I do see a lot of election shenanigans going on. So
every time it goes through, we go through this every day, every election day. There's tons of lawsuits flying across the table. Where are you, Brandon?
I think I'm pretty much where I was at on Monday when we talked about this.
You were the most positive on Monday.
No, I mean, we've got Doug from the car who was at 10. I don't know if I was at a 10, but I think that this is 100% a slam dunk for Donald Trump, just in terms of it.
Brandon, you were so positive. You thought New York was going to go for Trump, if you remember correctly. New York is not going to go for Trump.
I'm still there, man. Don't hate on it. I think there's going to be at least one surprise state that I think that will get flipped, whether it be like New York, California. I think there is going to be a surprise state.
California.
Okay, let's put this in perspective. Let's put this in perspective because this is Brandon's first ever election in which he voted.
It's true.
And I don't think he paid attention to elections until he joined the Tim Hatch Live team. So let's just keep that in perspective.
No, that's 100% true. Right. I think actually one of the very first conversations that we had that you shamed me about. I think that elections, you've got two people that are corrupt and doesn't really matter. So, and I was shamed pretty bad. I remember I think that was right after the election.
I prefer the word convicted, Brandon.
I'll go with shamed. Okay? Convicted.
All right.
After got you to the polls, Brandon, we're thrilled. So
I have that effect on people, and my wife does too. We have a good friend who also works with us, who is a diehard Democrat all his life. We got him to the polls, and for the first time in his life, he voted for a Republican. He voted for Donald Trump on Friday. You know who you are. I'm not going to say his name. I don't want to embarrass him. But so anyway, Brent, where are you at? 0 to 10.
I was an 8.5 yesterday, 8 today. But remember where I'm voting, and I'm listening to fiercely independent Massachusetts news. So everyone around is going Harris.
Yeah,
in this area.
Yeah, you guys are in the deep blue Democratic Republic up there of Massachusetts. Although I always say about Massachusetts, it's like it's not a West Coast leftist culture up there. It's that the blue laws, the blue dog Democrat culture up there. You know, they're not as crazy. I don't think they're as crazy, but you know, whatever. They are definitely in the deep blue.
Okay, they wanted to legalize magic mushrooms on the ballot. That is a ballot question. So.
Oh, and as I speak, Massachusetts just went to Harris.
Crazy. So.
And as I was speaking, they just put Massachusetts in Kamala's territory. So much for that one. That's
perfect timing.
That's gone. But you say, Brent, you say you were an 8.5, and now you're an 8. So that's because the Massachusetts influence.
Yep. You just see it all around. My neighbor's outside mowing his lawn with a Harris Wall shirt on. We all got a good chuckle out of that.
We got some chat here, too, from Paul A. on the chat says, I feel very confident. Paul, let us know why. Paul says, I just saw that Kamala's campaign called an emergency meeting. They're panicking. Would love the source on that. Let's see if we can get the source from Paul A.'s chat. This is your show tonight, guys. Want to have a good conversation, and we're going to go at least until 9 o'clock. We'll see how we feel. But this is just hang out, chat. Let's have some fun. We're all devoted Christians on this channel, and we're going to chat.
Go back to the surprise state and keep your eye on New Jersey and Virginia. If you're looking for something more likely to flip than New York.
Why
New
New Jersey?
Closer than you think.
But why New Jersey?
New Jersey. Trump spent some time there, and there's a lot of people in New Jersey that are getting tired of the same old with the Democrats.
Yeah, I saw some things that said I think they were waiting up to 4 hours to vote in New Jersey, and they were still in line and not leaving.
Gosh, that's something. Well,
really quick, Texas just flipped to its proper color.
That's right. It's now light.
That just happened.
It's now pink. So is Georgia. But Pennsylvania is still light blue. Michigan, light blue. Ohio, light blue. North Carolina, light blue. If Trump loses all 4 of those states, she wins. Just so you guys know.
Yeah, I don't see Pennsylvania ever. Here's what I say. Like, if you live in Pennsylvania and the dude went and got shot in your state and you still are like, yeah, I'm going to vote for Kamala, you're a jerk. I'm just going to say it. You know, this guy got shot in your state, was one of your own, and then he comes back, he's campaigning in there. I mean, I don't know.
Well, he's not from Pennsylvania. He's not one of their own, but he did.
No, I get that, but
he took a bullet.
Come on, man. He took a bullet in your state and he's still coming up. You know, I mean, on that note, I mean, I find it hard to believe, but I don't know.
It's the craziest. It's the craziest. And Doug, you can speak to this because you and I have been political junkie friends for 25 years. You can speak to this. This is the most entertaining election cycle I think I've ever watched in my life, by a mile.
It definitely is. Looking at Pennsylvania, you got to look at those collar counties. She has to run those numbers up to most 70%, high 60s. If she's not showing those numbers, she can get overtaken in the suburbs. And the suburbs are going to come in later because they're smaller areas and they're further away. So keep an eye on that.
Right now, the Senate race is looking a little blue in Pennsylvania. So Bob Casey right now is doubling.
Winning. Again, though, where are the counties that are reporting? Can we zoom in on our maps? That's the important thing, because you have that's what you've got to read is where are the votes coming from? Whenever I watch, and we're going to be I'll be doing this all night tonight. I probably won't sleep tonight. This is like Christmas Day to me. I absolutely love this stuff. I can't stop talking about it. But anyway, I will be watching, and you have to make sure that you pay attention. Now, here's what Virginia always does. Don't fall for the Virginia fake out. The counties outside of Washington, D.C. all report. Then Loudoun County comes roaring in. All the suburbians who travel into Washington, all the suburbians that travel into the swamp and work for the bureaucracy, their reports come in late at night, and it goes from leaning Republican to deep blue in about a 45-minute span. And just giving you a heads up on that. I just don't want you to get your hopes dashed like mine have many, many times over the years.
But if her margin can get cut in Loudoun County, then you have those suburbs and those rural areas that get a lot of Republican vote.
Mm.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I do have, let me play another video here because this is kind of interesting. This is CNN reporting exit polling or exit interviews, and I'm going to have to take you guys off the screen to show you this. But this is an interesting video. You guys are going to have to unmute me so you can watch it. But Trump voters saying they were ashamed to say that they voted for Trump as they came out of the polls. Watch this.
There were many who said that they were planning to vote for Trump or they had voted for Trump. However, when it came to sharing their views on camera, they didn't want to. One woman saying that she worked in the Army. Her coworkers assume she's voting Democrat. She didn't want to be on television saying that she was voting otherwise. Another woman saying she just didn't want her neighbors and friends to know that she had decided to vote Trump.
Wow, that's interesting to hear that some people are like, I can't let my neighbors and my friends and my coworkers know that I voted Trump, so I don't even want to be on camera. Hopefully there's a lot more people like that, and these polls are slanted even in Kamala's favor, even though they're pretty much 50-50.
I think there is. And here's the deal. Like, I mean, if Trump got elected in 2016, you got to imagine now this is 8 years removed from that, and how much shame you had, like even admitting that you're voting for him. Now people are just publicly wearing their MAGA hats. Nobody cares at this point. And like they're so unashamedly. And so you imagine the amount of people that were I don't want to say in the closet because that sounds bad, but secretly voting for Trump in 2016, and now it's a completely open thing. You add the factor of just how, dismal this last presidency has been. Again, I don't know. I can't rationally understand how it would be flipped into Kamala's favor without being blatant cheating. And I'm hoping that they discover it a lot quicker.
Derek Titus says on the chat, Derek Titus, sorry, Harris didn't earn anything. That's my biggest problem with her, because the fakery is natural for politicians. The, program speeches, I got another video where she's basically saying the same thing in the same cadence on 3 different stages. It's kind of funny. We can put it up later, but that's like commonplace for politicians. But not a single primary vote win. Nothing earned. I would have far more respect for President Hillary Clinton winning it in 2016 than I would ever have for Kamala Harris in 2024. I mean, I wouldn't like Hillary Clinton, but at least she fought, she struggled, she worked, she connived, and she got it. This one troubles me just as, what does it say about the meritocracy? What does it say about our country where we're handing out the presidency now to selected, DEI hires instead of people who have gone through the process, the rugged and hard process, and all the more credit to Trump, who has been running for president for 10 years now.
Well, I got to go in on Doug from Car Mode here.
Here we go. Now, wait. Let me preview what Doug from Car Mode is for our listeners. Doug is going to go full left-wing liberal nut job. Doug from Car, it's an act, but go.
You got to give her some credit. She jumped in to save the upside of the ticket because Biden was failing medically. We pray for him, and we feel bad for the guy. And she had to come in at the last minute, and look what she's done. She's pulled together the base of the party. She's really defined. She's gone full prosecution on Donald Trump, and it's the prosecutor versus the felon, right? Let's remember, he's got 34 felonies on him.
That's right.
All right. He's been off script. He can't stay on message. He's the dump truck thing. He couldn't even get in the door. I mean, so I'm just pointing out some of these things that are obvious that you really can't get too down on Kamala Harris. She took one for the team. She's come in. She's done a great job, and she stayed on message.
Thank you, Doug from Car. Response.
You forgot that Trump's showing signs of dementia.
Yeah.
That's right.
Thank you for that, because that was one I wanted to mention.
He may have won that.
He may have won that first debate, but he has shown many signs of dementia ever since then.
Yeah, including not being able to grab the handle of that dump truck. And this is another flip-flop of the Democrats. So I talked about it in the content about how they didn't give a rip about Bill Clinton having sex in the Oval Office, but now they're all up in arms about Donald Trump's sexual proclivities. They didn't give a rip about Joe Biden's dementia until they had to give a rip about it, and now suddenly they care about Donald Trump's mental acuity. It's just hilarious to me how quick the script gets flipped by the Democrat talking heads on television.
Dementia can come on pretty quick.
Say that again.
I think what impresses me the most is that she has been able to play this act this entire time of, well, he's too unfit to serve in the next election, but no, he's like perfectly all stable, intact. Like how is she not called out for that? Because that to me is a huge thing. Like, is he unfit or is he not? Because like either way, you got.
That's the question. Why are you the nominee if he is perfectly fine, right?
Right.
So that's the question that she got asked by somebody a couple of weeks ago, and she didn't have an answer. She just kind of like froze, deer in the headlights. Like, I don't know what to say to that, but that's the question. Remember, after the disastrous debate in June, she was out there saying he's fit, he's ready to go, he's going to be great, he's going to be the nominee. And then 32 days later, she's the nominee. And before that, he backs out. And actually, like 2 weeks later, he backs out and she's the nominee. And then suddenly she has to come up with the new script, which is what? He is fit, but he decided to step aside.
Well, she's got to stick with it because Trump is a fascist. So it's either dementia, Biden, or Trump the fascist. I mean, remember the 2020 fake electors? I mean, are we going back there? We're not going back.
We're not going.
Do you have notes?
Doug from Carr.
He's got notes over there. That's not fair.
No, just remember that he's wearing a blue hat. He is wearing a blue hat. So.
North Carolina. North Carolina's going for Kamala, baby.
Yvonne Caro says, Tim, did you mention the door knock today? Yes, I did. What did you guys think about the fake door knock moment with Kamala Harris? That's got to go down.
It's her campaign. That's her campaign right there.
Bus loads.
I do have the video. You guys want to see the video? The viewers got to see this of her saying the same exact thing, same exact motion, same exact cadence, 3 different speeches. You got to watch this. Watch.
Are you ready to make your voices heard? Do we believe in freedom? Do we believe in opportunity? Do we believe in the promise of America? And are we ready to fight for it? And when we fight, we win. Are you ready to?
I mean, yikes. Yikes.
It's like that news media video where they're all saying the same talking points.
Come on.
It's like
Come on.
Yeah, Doug from
not
Carr.
a
What do you have to
Nazi.
say?
She's not a Nazi. I mean, have you heard what John Kelly and General Milley had to say? I mean, he's going to be unchecked in a second term. He's going to be able to do these things. He emulates and idolizes people like Adolf Hitler.
Adolf Hitler. He wants
Now
generals.
You're going to get all over her because, she used a couple of accents? Come on.
Honestly,
Y'all.
that's the only answer that they had for anything. That's what's just so maddening,
What's the answer?
Trump.
Yeah,
Trump.
But Trump.
Doesn't matter what it is, but Trump.
Mhm.
But Trump. But Trump.
What did that say with Lester Holt?
Also-
With Lester Holt, he said, but you've been in office for 3.5 years. And she said, but Donald Trump has been running for office for 10 years. What? Like, that had to be the gold standard of but Trump moments in political history. What does him running for office for the last 10 years have to do with your failures for the last 3.5 years? Brandon, go.
You all know what that means.
Oh, what does that mean?
You know what that-
Doug
you
from
know
Carr.
it.
Yes?
Oh, you know what that means.
You know what it means.
Oh.
You know
what we're talking about.
That's what she
You know
said.
what we're talking
You
about.
know.
No, what I'm curious about is just how quickly she's going to throw Biden completely under the bus. Imagine she gets elected, she's going to throw him completely under the bus. There's no rescuing that. I mean, the guy is done. And what I'm curious about is how quickly the Diddy tapes come out if, and I should say when Trump is elected. It's got to happen. How quickly those come out? Do you think those will actually come out?
I don't know.
Does
Is it a
Epstein
federal
come out?
investigation at this point?
Yes.
The FBI is involved?
He's in federal prison because of state lines?
Well,
and
I mean,
lawyers.
I have doubts that it's going to be first on his list when he gets to the when he gets to the office. But there's the far more propensity for them to be released when he is in office as opposed to her. Somebody in the chat says, "Has anyone seen the video of her pretending to be on the phone with a voter today?" Jared Murfato. I do want to show this video because this one is also hilarious. She pretends to be taking a phone call from a voter, and then things go poorly from there. Make sure you watch this. Now, the reason why that is so fake is because if you zoom up on the phone, you can see that the camera app is open and there's no little oval at the top that shows that she's on a phone call. So this is just part and parcel with the fakery and one of the worst, again, moments in campaigning history, in my opinion.
Yep, it's her campaign. That's what it is. It's all tailored and doctored. There's nothing genuine about it. And I think that that's a big reason why she wouldn't even show up to Joe Rogan.
Right.
Can you imagine what that would have been like?
Okay, so she didn't have time to get to Joe Rogan, but she had time to get to SNL for the cold open with
And the Who's Your Daddy?
and then the best part about that skit was it was a complete what do you call it? Plagiarized skit from 2015 when Donald Trump did it with Jimmy Fallon. The exact same thing of looking in the mirror with the, dressing room mirror and the bulbs around it, and they're having a conversation with each other. I mean, even that. Now, look at her campaign so far. No taxes on tips. Where did she get that idea? From Trump. There was another policy position that she put out. And then, Trump goes and sits with the barber shop in New York. 2 weeks later, she's sitting with barbers in Philadelphia. It's like everything he does, she says, I can do better. And that's her campaign. She has no creativity. And one thing you can say about Donald Trump is he's been creative this whole process. In fact, he's gotten better with every campaign of creativity and talking to the voters. And I have to say, I think that his rhetoric has become far more what do you call it? When it's not as abrasive, when it's more, user-friendly, I guess is the only words I can think of, where he's just not being the billionaire playboy anymore. If you listen to him, he's far more mellow in his presentation than he's ever been before. Of course, they're all going to lift the clips from the Madison Square Garden rally or some other, out of context clip to create a hoax. But nonetheless, it seems like he's gotten better. She has no creativity. That's my point. And when you want to have a president, you need a president with creativity.
Here's the thing you got to worry about, though. Donald Trump is going to take away your guns.
That's Doug from Carr should be coming from that.
He is. He is. Yes, he is. And Kamala said you can keep your guns, and she like fracking.
She owns a gun.
She's got a Glock.
It's on her website.
Yep, she's got a Glock. Now, what Brandon?
To her house, she's gonna shoot you.
What Brandon just referenced, we have a video for that too. So let's go to this video because there is news now that Kamala claims Trump is going to take away your guns. You won't believe it. Here she is making that claim in an interview with Shannon Sharp. Watch.
Unreasonable search and seizure. Your Fifth Amendment right. Your Sixth Amendment right to an attorney.
Well, a lot of rights going to be gone. The First Amendment.
But the First Amendment, the Second Amendment. Look, I'm in favor of the Second Amendment. I don't believe we should be taking anybody's guns away. He wants to terminate the Constitution of the United States.
He wants to take away your guns. Guys, make sure you mute me when we go to the videos. I'm sorry I'm doing it quickly, but make sure we do. And that was probably the most flip-floppy I've ever seen a candidate since John Kerry. Does anybody remember John Kerry? Does anybody remember 2004? The Iraqi surge was a very contested vote in the Senate to send more troops to Iraq to finish a job and take control of the country. John Kerry voted against it. This became a scourge on his record as a senator when he ran for president because it was so successful and it basically stifled a lot of hostilities in Iraq. And he went around the country campaigning saying, I voted for the surge before I voted against it. I'll never forget that line. And he basically buried his campaign by flip-flopping. And here we have, it's almost like John Kerry Part 2, 20 years later.
Do you remember the RNC? They gave up flip-flops, and they were all going flip-flop, flip-flop. We gotta get the flip-flop.
Yes.
It's not flip-flopping. She has not changed any of her views. She's just changing the way that she packages them.
Doug, this is very helpful. It's preparing us for conversations.
Trump, Doug from Carr, I have bad news. Virginia has leaned Republican. Ohio has leaned Republican. And now Georgia has leaned Republican. What do you got to say about that, Doug from Carr?
Well, as I said, I am for Harris. I've got the blue hat to prove it, and I'm wanting North Carolina to go. But I was confident. I said I was a 10 that Trump is going to win. And I told you, watch Virginia and watch New Jersey.
Now, that's interesting because what are you watching for that? Because the tracker I have has Ohio leaning towards blue, Virginia leaning towards blue, North Carolina leaning towards blue.
Well, I'm going to go to the screen here. You guys aren't going to be heard for a second. There's our screen. We can actually go bigger. And we have on our tracker from Google, It's just if you type in election tracker in Google, 95 electoral votes for Trump, Harris 35, and we've got red-leaning Ohio, Virginia, Georgia, Texas, blue-leaning Pennsylvania, North Carolina. I mean, Kansas obviously is not going to happen. Illinois is going to be blue. Michigan is probably going to be blue. Pennsylvania leaning blue. So that's where we are so far with those on the Google tracker. But again, seriously early.
What percent is reporting on those?
Say again?
What's the percent that's reporting?
For which state?
I don't even know. I don't know. Maybe I can.
Which state? If you hover over it, it tells you.
Oh.
Pennsylvania, 72%. What do you have?
8% in Pennsylvania.
8% in Pennsylvania.
And it's showing red.
Oh, but no. Now, I'm going to go to the tracker. They aren't going to hear you guys for a moment. Here's Pennsylvania, but look at who's reporting most so far. You've got mostly from Philadelphia and the surrounding counties there. Pittsburgh and the surrounding counties. Erie County, or I don't even know what county that is. I don't know if it's Erie County. But so you've got the cities that are reporting so far in Pennsylvania. That's why it's leaning blue right now. Again, still seriously early.
It's like watching the Super Bowl.
Remember, she's got to really run it up big. Those are the collar counties right there, south of Philly, north of Philly on the New Jersey border. If she doesn't run it up big, they get swamped by the red counties.
What did I hear? That she is way down in early voting in Philadelphia. She needs 700,000 votes in person today to match Joe Biden's win in 2020. And Joe Biden
He only needed 560.
And Joe Biden only got 93,000. So it's like 609,000. So she needs 91,000 more votes in Philadelphia in person today to match Joe Biden's numbers there from 2020. So she's got an uphill climb at this point.
And the polling on women for Harris and men for Trump, it's better for Trump with the men than it is for the women with Harris.
Yeah. Well, we had that hot mic moment where she was talking about how they were doing very poorly with men.
With Gretchen Whitmer.
Yes.
I have a question for the audience, for the chatters. Like, if Trump wins, and I mean, this is kind of like a on-the-nose question. Forgive me. I know I'm a pastor, but I have fleshly urges. And one of mine is to dunk on the loser should Trump win. Who would you most love to? And I'm not going to. We've got to take the high road as Christians. But out of all the noisy talking heads on television and on social media, who would you love to dunk on the most if Donald Trump won? Who wants to go first so that I don't look like the bad guy? Okay, Kelly, who?
The View.
I'll look like the bad. Robert De Niro.
Robert De Niro? That's a good one. Let me know in the chat who you guys want to dunk on, because that I would. Yeah, Robert De Niro is up there. Who do you want to go for there, Brent?
The View.
The whole
All
cast.
Yeah.
Especially the one who turned on Trump. Like she worked for him.
Well, they all did.
Well, they all loved him at one
all
point.
did.
They all did. But she worked for him. And she came out with her endorsement for Harris that she voted for her today. And she added insult to injury and said, when I watched Donald Trump on election night in 2020, I knew he didn't deserve to win. What kind of subordinate says that about their boss on the most important night of their professional life that your job is hinging on?
It's all about this.
Dollars, man. Absolutely. Doug?
With
Joe and Mika.
Joe and Mika. Morning, Joe. Yeah, I'm with that. Brandon?
I'm with Ramondo 727. Whoopi especially Whoopi for me. Like, you could say The View, but man, Whoopi just needs to shut up. She's bad.
Yeah.
Well, I could go with Jackie, who's saying Taylor Swift.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yes. Ooh,
I forgot about that.
That's a good one too.
That might be my top one.
You all know about my latent hostility towards Taylor Swift.
She's going to come out with a song about Trump.
Yvonne Carroll says Mike Pence. Rebecca Cavalli says Madonna. That's a good one.
Imagine in real time they call it for Trump. I want to see Van Jones.
Whoopi Goldberg.
Most of the CNN anchors, I just want to see their faces. I know MSNBC. So we can.
Len Lewinsky, Biden's press secretary. Corinne Jean-Pierre. She is so cringe. She is so cringe. It is hard to take her. Honestly, I will not miss her.
But she would just be like, no, he did not lose. She did not lose.
She lectures.
Joyless read. That's a good one, Rick.
Joshua Vining, the Young Turks. I hear that one, Josh. I don't mind the Young Turks anymore because Anna Kasparian has come to the middle, and even Cenk, he's totally going to vote for Kamala. He wants her to win, but Cenk is starting to wake up to the suppression of free speech, the censorship on the left, and he's having a problem with it. And so he might be where Joe Rogan was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. It takes time. Doug from Carr. Before you were Doug from Carr, you were Doug the conservative, hardcore conservative. Before you were Doug the hardcore conservative, you were Doug the liberal.
Oh yeah, before I got saved, I was a flaming lib. I mean, I just everything that they went for, I thought was a good idea. So Doug from Carr is going to have to explain if Trump wins to his granddaughter why a bully became president of the United States. There are going to be parents waking up all over this country having to tell their children that a fascist Nazi was elected president while they're eating their Rice Krispies in the morning.
That's okay. They have those guides out for parents already to help you talk to your children. They have safe.
They do.
I hope they have school psychologists on
They
speed
do
dial.
all kinds of things.
Doug from Carr, he is cracking me up tonight. Doug from Carr might become a regular segment on the deep end. Let me know in the chat if you're in favor of it. Doug from Carr, the left-wing nut job, coming in with the opposing viewpoint, tongue-in-cheek, of course.
Just teaching you how to argue with the enemy.
So
mute the bully.
We got to tell.
Ivan says, "Mute the bully." I'm triggered.
We we keep talking about having Doug from Carr on regularly. How do people see regularly? How are people even seeing these conversations? Because that's something we should probably update people about.
What conversations?
Well, what conversation is Doug from Carr going to be on? You guys talk about the Monday morning meeting.
Oh, he'll be on the show. We'll definitely have him on for the conversation with Doug from Carr. He'll be part of the regular appearance, just like regulars show up for Saturday Night Live and Fox News and all those kind of people. Anyway, we've got a vote for Maxine Waters to be dunked on by Joe Lopes. We've got Lucy's Boyajan, it looks like. All the ones saying they will leave the U.S. My word. I saw that today. There was 2 celebrities on Twitter. I will leave. Barbara Streisand, who, by the way, this is not the first rodeo for Barbara Streisand saying she would leave the U.S. She said it. I remember her saying it in 2004 with George W. Bush, and she's still in the U.S.
They never leave. They only threaten, and then they never follow through.
The problem is there's nowhere to go. Once you've had the U.S., you can't go anywhere else. It's the best. I'm sorry. I mean, there's no comparison. It's hard to leave this country. Anyway. All right, you guys didn't ask.
We'll go to Canada.
You guys didn't ask me who I would dunk on.
Who would you dunk?
Who would you dunk on?
I gotta say,
now you forced us to ask.
Yeah, I think I gotta say it would either be Mark Cuban or Rob Reiner. Anybody follow Meathead from All in the Family? Rob Reiner drives me nuts.
Yes.
Because this guy is not just a left-wing liberal, he is an anti-Christian left-wing liberal. If you watch his tweets, this guy has an obsession with Christian nationalism that is seriously dementing his head. I mean, he literally thinks Christians are going to run the country tomorrow unless Kamala Harris wins. And this happens every election season. But he actually put out a documentary, I don't know if anybody saw it, about Christian nationalism, and he's constantly complaining about the influence of Christianity on this country, which just boggles the mind because he's Jewish, right? He is Jewish. Mm-hmm. We come from the Jewish faith. I know he's a secular Jew. I know. I understand. There's Orthodox Jews, and the Orthodox Jews have completely gone in the tank for Donald Trump this time around, which is good news for Trump. But the secular Jews, something happens to the secular Jews. They really hate Christians. They hate Christians. And he's like arch enemy number one with that regard. Anyway, back to the Christian mindset is we can only talk or imagine dunking on these people. Okay, we're not going to literally dunk on these people. We love our enemies.
Hey, I've got a better question for you. Who of the Hollywood actors would you want to give them a handshake because of their support now from this election? So my first up,
that's a good question.
Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson coming out
Yeah.
and saying that she's got the IQ of a
Fence
what was
post.
it, a fence post?
Yeah. It was good.
Okay, you've made it absolutely clear who you are voting for. And I would shake your hand on that one. Who gets credits this time on this election?
Rosie O'Donnell. I didn't even think of that one. But I feel bad for Rosie O'Donnell. Well, we're back to dunking on from Yvonne Carroll here. I feel bad for Rosie because she's got the worst case of TDS, I think, in the country. She does not look well mentally, emotionally. Have you seen some of her selfie videos lately? You gotta log on and hate watch some of her selfie videos because she is in a bad place. Anyway,
yeah.
Back to Brent.
I want to see AOC.
Dunked on? Yeah. What? Okay, now let's go positive like Brandon had us going, and then I pulled us back into the negative. Like, who do we want to thank? And in the comments, let us know, who do you want to thank from the celebrity, well-known? Doesn't have to be a movie or, rock star celebrity. Who do you want to know? Famous person you want to say thank you for being on Trump's side. Who would that be? And so Brandon. Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Although I will say about Joe Rogan, a little late, buddy. A little late. Yeah. You should have jumped. You should have jumped on the train when your boy RFK Jr. jumped on the train. That's when you should have started saying, you know what? He's with Trump. I'm with Trump. But he held out, and then he even re-upped his support for RFK after RFK came out and endorsed Trump. And now he's finally, the day of election, night before, 11th hour, literally saying, I endorse Donald Trump. He doesn't want the kickback.
Well, he is a libertarian, and what we're going to have to resurrect after this election is the Tea Party.
If Kamala wins, we have to resurrect that.
Well, Trump only has one. I'm going ahead. Trump only gets one term.
I know.
He can't run a second.
Well, no, Doug from Carr, he's going to eliminate the Constitution.
He's not leaving. He's going to stay.
Dictator forever. Oh, and I forgot to mention, you never showed the Trump, the one with JD Vance becoming a dictator. You only showed the peanut. You gotta show them that clip.
I don't have that one now, unfortunately.
I felt bad for peanut.
I should have kept that one in the file, but I deleted it. I do have the guys who went down with the Kamala Harris campaign shirts and started to knock on doors where the Kamala Harris signs were outside and saying, would you take an illegal immigrant? This is good. You gotta watch this.
That's really funny.
This was clever. Let's put this on because these guys deserve an award. All right, here we go. Let me just get to the control.
I dressed up like I work for Kamala's campaign, and now I'm gonna deliver immigrants to her supporters.
We are voting for you, don't worry.
Are you? We do have a surprise, if that's okay, just real fast.
You have a surprise?
We're looking for a place for them to stay. They just came across. They'll sleep on floors. I mean, they're not picky, We have like a 2-year-old, so Hector's good with kids. Sorry, we just can't. Could they just sleep on your lawn? They need a place to stay. They just came across.
My teenagers live with me.
Oh, that's fine. Hector, he was dating a teenager a little bit ago, so.
Okay.
They just came across. They don't have papers. You're in support of the whole border situation, and we're just trying to get them a floor to sleep on. Do you guys want COVID? They said they could survive it.
We work with her, so we know how to say her name.
Earlier you said Kamala. The way she pronounces her name is Kamala. You don't work with her either.
See that car? We have 3 dudes who just came across the border. We're trying to find them a home.
Find them a home.
Just say I'm voting for Donald Trump without saying it, okay?
That's a wrong attitude, mister. I said my vote is private.
So you're voting Kamala?
No. You said it again.
No, that one was hilarious. We lost Brent, by the way. Where's Brent? We got to get him back on the show.
Oh, he gave us a chat, said he had to go.
Oh, he had to go. Okay. That was very clever. And it just shows you all of the virtue signaling on the political left. They say they care for the immigrants. They say they care for these people. How many remember, we covered this on the deep end, the brilliant move by one Governor Ron DeSantis, my favorite governor, who flew those illegals to Martha's Vineyard, and they stayed there an entirety of 90 minutes. I will never forget.
We love you. Here, take some supplies and leave.
I gotta say, that was disgusting. Why did he, he bait and switched those people. He told them they were going to get something else, and then they showed up in Martha's Vineyard But that was mean. That he was taking advantage of those people.
Doug from Car.
Didn't they like sue him too? Wasn't there like a lawsuit?
No, you know what happened? The brilliant thing of Ron DeSantis is he puts out the Florida budget the year before, and he earmarks, I forget what he earmarked. I think it was $25 million of the Florida budget for relocation of illegal immigrants, and he put it in a paragraph of the budget, and every Democrat signed off on the budget. So then they got all up in arms when he shipped the illegals to Martha Vineyard, and it made a huge news cycle splash. And he said, I got their names on the bill right here. If all those Democrats want to come after me, you got to talk to them because they signed off on the spending. And I just spent that money.
Oh, that is so funny.
That's why I wanted
that.
That's why I wanted him to be the nominee, because he's such a forward thinking guy and he has his ducks in a row. And the problem is now there's the accusation that he wears lifts in his shoes. So there's that problem. Who cares, honestly? But we want our presidents tall. That's what Trump has going for him. But we're back. Let's get back to who do we want to celebrate and thank. We've got a lot of people in the chat. Want to give them some attention here. Elon, Natasha Boyd, Michael McGarry, Joe Rogan. We've got RFK Jr. Let's talk about RFK. First off, one of the greatest political introductions, I think, in human history, and that is not an exaggeration, when Donald Trump said, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and the crowd went crazy, and they played hero, and they had the fire coming from down below and up, and he walked out. It was unbelievable. That moment still gives me chills. And if you remember, Donald Trump says at the end, he's like, wow, I don't even think you've ever welcomed me that well. It was just so powerful. But, you know, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he's pro-choice, no limitations on abortion. He's definitely a climate nut. But I can agree with him on the health stuff. I can agree with him on the stuff that we're putting in our food. He wants to remove fluoride from the water. What do we think about that issue? Is blowing up on Twitter a little bit because some people are making the claim that if we removed fluoride, our teeth are going to fall out. But he says it also causes certain cancers and other ailments. And at least we could test these things, experiment, find out what the truth is. We know our food is killing us.
Absolutely. I am so excited if Trump does get elected that he would have a position to just take over that part of government. Because there are so many additives and hormones and things that we do not realize are injected into our food that we eat. And the lobbying that's taken place that changes what the FDA comes up with as far as what a balanced diet is. You know, that's all from lobbying, not from science that actually would tell you what is good for you to eat. So that's really exciting to me. And fluoride, you know, there's been a lot of things that have come out, even things about questions about autism and all kinds of things. Certainly IQs in kids, they say, is linked to falling because of the amount of fluoride in the water.
Really?
So.
Yeah. There's no doubt that we're getting stupider and we're getting fatter and unhealthier. And that has always been one of my gripes, even from the pulpit. It is a spiritual issue. Your body is a spiritual issue. Your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. And you're not going to get any help from Big Agra. You're not going to get any help from the FDA. You've got to do this on your own. You got to do the due diligence. You got to find out what works for your body. You got to eat right. And I think there's something to be said. We got a guy in our church. Doug knows who he is. He's got a whole list of things that from his genealogical or biological structure in his ancestry, he should eat certain things and not eat other things. And I think there's an app about that. But we got to, I 100% with you, Kelly, on that. The make America healthy again mantra is a winner for me. And I welcome him into the fold with open arms.
I think the thing that I'm most, oh, go ahead, Doug.
Doug from Car.
Wait a minute. So what are you telling me? You want the government in my kitchen? You want the government not only to tell me when and how I have to have a baby and what sex I've got to be. Now you want the government in my kitchen telling me what I have to eat?
No, I just don't want them. I just don't want them funneling money through lobbyists to our congressmen and congresswomen saying what companies should get the government subsidies. That's what I want.
You have
Quick
no
update.
empirical evidence that that's happening.
All right, electoral
Quick
update.
update. We got it. We have to break Doug. No, are we? I don't know if we're breaking Doug from Cars Hard or not. New Jersey has been officially given to Kamala Harris.
Yeah,
How
for
close?
That will not be your
a
surprise.
little while. Yeah.
Yep, she's at 71. Trump's at 101. We are really, really early. Yep, they called it 762 to 617,000. Hey,
So
New Jersey, you got 600,000 people who voted for Trump, so don't feel alone if you voted for him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at that New Jersey number and saying, you know, that's quite a few for a blue state. That's pretty
a lot.
good.
That's a lot. I mean, Massachusetts, 18,000 votes, but only 2% reported.
Yeah, but there's like nothing reported there. I think one of the things that I was wondering is like how much do they withhold data, because still technically you can vote in California right now, right? So I wonder how much data that they withhold on this side before, so they don't, maybe potentially mess them up.
Well, it's about when the polls close, because California's not going to close until our time, I think, 11 o'clock at night, our time. Alaska is the last poll to close at 1 a.m. our time, but that's not a swing state. That's going to go red. That's why you stay up late. This is, again, like I say, every 4 years, my favorite day of the year. I love this stuff. I love staying up late and watching it and just checking the channels.
Back to your objection on Nevada and how long they're going to take to count their votes.
Yeah.
Are you insinuating that there's something untoward going on there, that they want to know how many votes are needed, and then they can get them up to 4 days after? I mean, that's conspiracy tinfoil hat stuff right there.
Doug from Carr, thank you for your input. For those of you just joining us, Doug from Carr is a left-wing meme character on the Deep End Show. Just so you know, we love him. We need balance. Fair and balanced news here on the Deep End. Back to people that people want to celebrate and thank, famous people. Charlie Kirk, Lemmy Maldonado, Charlie Kirk, Baronet, My Pillow Guy, Babushka. Who is Babushka? Terrence Williams. I love Terrence Williams' content, by the way. He's fantastic. Tulsi Gabbard, who I have really appreciated her for a long time. Tulsi Gabbard and her point of view, and veteran, upstanding woman, the woman that Hillary Clinton said was a Russian plant in the 2016 election primary cycle. I mean, how idiotic do you have to be? They got a real obsession with Russia. Ever since that reset button, remember the reset button that she presented to Putin? Does anybody remember that stupid moment? Not the reset button, the easy button. Was it the easy? What was the Staples button? The Staples button. Was it easy?
Yeah, easy button.
There's a video. You can look it up. I don't have it available. She is walking up to Vladimir Putin, head of state. She's our Secretary of State, and she hands him the easy button, saying, we need to make this relationship easier on each other. It is so humiliating. And he looks at it like, are you kidding me? Like, what is this? He can't speak English, doesn't know what it says. This is a toy. And she is the Secretary of State. Jackie Filed says, Philides says, Vivek. I love Vivek, but he's a Hindu, Kelly.
Yep.
He's a Hindu, Kelly.
Kelly is anti-Vivek. We know.
Not a
I
fan.
have a little bit of a problem with that, I have to say.
But why? Tell the audience why. You've got a reason.
Because he is, he's a Hindu, and when you worship a false god, I have a problem with that. There are things and belief systems in that, because he is a practicing Hindu, and so just like anyone who would practice a religion, those thoughts and ideas are woven into his policies and his thoughts. And that is disturbing to me.
Is that any different than the cultural Catholics that aren't really Catholics, that have been, mostly the presidency? Like, I mean, they're not really practicing at all.
That's true, but I think that there is kind of that remnant of a base that they have, that kind of historical context around them, things that they're more sensitive to or more receptive to.
A lot of Catholics are saved. A lot of Catholics have convictions, biblical convictions, and even nominal Catholics, they have a good amount of biblical convictions. Of course, there's a lot of left-leaning Catholics. In fact, Catholics have been a very large Democratic voting bloc. Remember at the Al Smith dinner this past October, Jim Gaffigan got up on stage and said, of all the places to not come and campaign or show up, Kamala, you come to a dinner filled with Jews and Catholics in New York City. This is a layup for you. And they all laughed because they know it's true. They're on her team.
Well, I agree that Kamala should not have been there because the Catholics are very staunch pro-life, and the main thing on Kamala's agenda is pro-choice.
Yeah, you do bring up a valid left-wing point there, Doug from Carr.
Those are important, conversations to have. How are they feeling? How are Catholics feeling? How are Jews feeling? Practicing Jews. We saw that she gave 2 completely different ad campaigns between that would be of an Islamic belief system and those that would be of a Judaic belief system. So it's very, interesting. And then I thought the SNL skit was just terrible, completely mocking of
the Catholics. That was the Al Smith dinner video that she sent with, by the way, you bring out Molly Shannon with the Mary Catherine thing. Like that's, I looked it up because I forgot about that character. That's from the 1990s SNL generation. What demographic are you reaching for when you're bringing out Molly Shannon's Mary Catherine character for that moment on Al Smith? That was kind of crazy.
You know who we're reaching with that.
Well, I mean,
that was one of
she called Mel Gibson and couldn't get the getting a headway there. So that's the next best that she got.
So Derek Titus is a little bit behind. He says Kathy Griffin. I think he wants to dunk on Kathy Griffin. I don't think he wants to thank her for being a supporter of Trump. She's the one that held up the Trump head. Barbara Jean says I'm allergic to fluoride. That's a good point. There's a lot of people that are allergic to it. Anybody here?
Yeah, Ivan brings up a good point. Not afraid of Hindu that respects the Bill of Rights. I'm not afraid of Vivek. I'm not.
No, I'm not either. I wasn't afraid of. I was a big fan, and I hate to say it. I'm ashamed to say this now, but I was a big fan of Mitt Romney until he was Mitt Romney, until he was found out for the fraud that he is. But I really wanted him to be president in 2012, and he's a Mormon.
I was a big fan of Candace Owens until as of late. I feel like she's gone off the rails, which is unfortunate because she should have been a good presidential elect woman, black president that I think that would have done really well. But I think she burned too much bridges.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what you guys don't talk about enough? You don't talk about the Republicans for Kamala. You don't talk about, all of those.
Liz Cheney.
Well, what about John Kelly? What about General Milley? What about
Doug? You look like you're reading a list.
Yeah, he gets notes.
It doesn't flow at this point. There's no flow to this moment. I don't know.
You guys never talk about that stuff. I mean, we've got all of these Republicans that are backing Kamala.
We're no longer the Warhawk Party, Doug. That's your party. Doug from Carr. We're the peace, love, and happiness party. We got Elon. We got Joe Rogan.
Hippies.
Yeah. You're the ones now. We'll give you Liz Cheney. We'll take Elon. We'll give you Dick Cheney. We'll take Tulsi Gabbard. Those are pretty, and we'll take RFK Jr. and we'll give you the Lincoln Project. All those people.
we got Barack Obama, we got Michelle Obama to come to the convention and campaign, and Michael. Enough of that. What about George Bush, Jeb Bush? They won't go to a Republican campaign. They're backing Kamala.
Yep, it's true.
The real Republican.
None of us have a problem with that.
Remember the Republican Party was an honorable party. Remember when that was?
I remember, yes. That's back when they were bombing innocents in Iraq and Afghanistan. I remember that for a long time. That was the Republican Party.
I think Lemmy figured it out. Doug's teleprompter, it broke. You got Cardi B'd.
You did. You got Cardi B'd.
Lemmy.
Schnell throws out Ross Perot. I don't know the context of this comment, Ross Perot, Schnell, but maybe give us some context there. That's an interesting. You know that Ross Perot is how we got the Clintons. Everybody knows that, right? If he doesn't run for president, we don't have Bill Clinton, George H.W. Bush. The economy was already recovering in 1992, and he would have gone down as a great two-term president if it wasn't for Ross Perot. And he changed a lot.
Have Bill Clinton back right now. Bill Clinton would be a breath of fresh air between these
Oh my word.
candidates.
Bill Clinton would fit nice. If the 1990s Bill Clinton would fit in right in with the Republican Party right now. Safe, legal, and rare. Remember those lines? Safe, legal, and rare abortion. Now the Democratic Party is shout your abortion. Now it's free abortions. Not just free abortions, but free abortions for illegals, free abortions overseas, paid for by the U.S. taxpayer.
And not for anything, Barack Obama has been doing a great job for the last 3.5 years, and we should really think about letting people run for more than 2 terms.
Mehdi asked this question: if Trump wins, does Elon get the Department of Energy?
No, it's government efficiency.
Doge. But I have a video I got to show you guys. This video was sent to me by a friend. Doug, you've already seen it. But this video is pretty stinking cool, and I hope it's not cold water on the results tonight, but just check this one out because this is a campaign video, closing argument video for the ages. Let's watch this. Hold on.
What will we do with this moment? How will we be remembered? Look at the opportunities before us.
This election really isn't about the left versus the right. It's about we the people choosing our government and the choice between freedom versus tyranny.
Nobody has a chronic disease burden like we have. Why are we allowing this to happen to our children? Ultimately, the only thing that will save our country is if we choose to love our kids more than we hate each other.
What is going on here is deeper than politics. It is deeply spiritual. We are being called to rise above the hatred and the fear and the evil.
We need to remember above and beyond that we must love our neighbors, that we must treat other people as we hope to be treated.
You want to be a rebel? You want to be a hippie? You want to stick it to the man? Show up on your college campus and try calling yourself a conservative.
America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before. The future is going to be amazing!
Don't you want healthy children? Don't you want a president that's going to make America healthy again? The sweet emotion raining all over me.
I come to you today as a former Democrat. I will be a first-time Trump voter tonight.
The people dreamed this country, and it's the people who are making America great again.
Woo! That's a good one. I got to tell you, that's one of the best ads I've ever seen. And that was, produced by Kid Rock. Powerful. Sends chills down your spine. And you love the language. Again, this is part of, I think, the evolution of Trump learning how to run for president. It's not, I'm going to fix it, I'm going to change things. It's Americans, the people, are going to make America great again. He's doing a lot better with that language, which I think is making him a lot more palatable to a lot more people this time around.
I think he has a great team. I mean, the people that he's recruited around him, I think that really speaks to the difference between a person that's part of the establishment and a person that's more outside of the establishment. And that's what I think Trump does best, is he picks the best people because he's from the private sector. So you look at all the people that he surrounded himself with, including J.D. Vance, who is just I think he's a fantastic pick for a VP.
Mm-hmm.
That video does nothing for me. Honestly, there was nothing about reproductive rights. There was nothing in there about equality, and there was nothing in there about climate change. He's a fascist, and he's just trying to divide us. He's all about himself.
Thank you for your contribution, Doug from Carr.
We got another heartbreaking moment.
Heartbreaker. I told you there was no way New York was going to go for Trump.
Officially, New York has been Kamala.
Welcome to elections, Padawan.
But it's only 15%. I feel like that's going to be.
No.
I don't know.
No.
It's not going to flip, okay? But I think it's going to be closer than anticipated.
It's 15%, and she's got 10% of the 15.
It just how I don't know. People are crazy. Why?
There's just
literally illegals have taken over that entire city.
I know, and they complain about it. But look what happened. And Trump made that great point at the Al Smith dinner. Eric Adams complained about the illegals, and 3 months later, he had an indictment from the FBI. Boom. That's how it happens. What does that tell you? There is a political machine that picks the candidate. I don't even know how much the people have to do with anything up there. And they're inculcated. That's just the context. That's just their environment. You got to get along to go along. That's how it is, especially in New York, especially in Massachusetts and, California. But there's a lot of Republican, there's a lot of conservatives in those states as well. They're just far outnumbered.
Do you think that she takes Michigan?
Michigan is going to be tough. I have more hope for Wisconsin than Michigan. I have more hope for Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. I think he has a good shot at Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. And if he gets those two states, he gets them early because they're quick counting states. And this could be settled early in the morning, late in the evening tonight. But if they're close, forget about it.
We are worried about Michigan because we are worried that we aren't getting the Arab vote there. And we're afraid it's going to be going to Jill Stein.
Jill Stein or Donald Trump?
No, not to Donald Trump. It's a protest vote going to Jill Stein.
Yeah, the exit polling was not favorable for Kamala. It
wasn't?
Kamala.
Only
it was not with that segment of the population.
Let me go to my electoral tracker for a second. Only 9%. Only 9% reporting in Michigan, so a long way to go there. She is up 52.6 to 45.5.
It's Kamala.
Oh, sorry. No, it's yes, I'm sorry. It's Kamala. Kamala. You said Kamala.
It's Kamala.
I like to mispronounce it in different ways on purpose. Kamala.
It depends on your audiences. Who's your audience? You have your own speech patterns for depending on who you're talking to.
Well, she does. Why can't I? What's it called? It's not. What's that term they call it? Something checking, identity checking, context check. I forget.
In sales, we call it personality matching, but I don't know what it's called.
If you know in the chat, let me know, chatters on YouTube, because I forget what it's called, but it's called something. Oh, you know where I haven't gone to? Forgive me, guys. I got to get you off screen for 1 second. Go to the chat here. Oh, yeah, that's not open. Okay, never mind. You're back. Tulsi Gabbard, make a great VP. Okay, let's talk about if Trump wins. Okay. 2 questions we could probably end tonight with our conversation. If Trump wins, and he has, like we have said, except Doug will not, Doug from Carr rejects this. He has only 1 term left. Of course, Doug from Carr believes he will become a king. We'll turn into a monarchy. Elections and the Constitution will be thrown out. But if Trump wins, now you have 4 years. Now, look, you don't have 4 years. Listen to me, YouTube audience. You have 2 years. He's going to have a 2-year term. This is why I've said from the beginning that Kamala is the sacrificial lamb the Democrats offered up. Let's see what she does. Let's feel out the electorate for this time around. But really, we don't want her to win because we want to get our money together. We want to get our engineering, our structure together to run a full campaign and go starting 2026. That's when the 2028 election season begins, on the heels of the midterms in 2026. So you've got 2 years of Donald Trump presidency, and then the wheels start kicking in, the engines start running for 2028. Who is our favorite from the Republican side to be the nominee at this point?
Oh, I've got a
Adam
ton.
Adam Kinzinger.
Doug, I got to tell you, that was very well timed. That was. You're almost too good at this, Doug from Carr. Who is our pick?
I'm excited. I like DeSantis. I think I'm big on DeSantis, but honestly, I'm okay with pretty much any of the candidates that are coming across. I mean, I'm excited to see what happens with JD Vance. We'll see what happens in this term. Vivek also excites me. Tulsi Gabbard will be interesting. But I think I like DeSantis the most.
We got like 2 people for DeSantis on the chat. Who do you got, Kelly?
I like JD Vance. I like DeSantis where he is. I think he's a good governor.
Yeah, but this is the problem, though, Kelly.
I think the problem, it's going to translate hard for him to become president.
The problem also is that he can't run for governor down here again. It's a 2-term limit, two back-to-back term limit in Florida. You can skip a term, you can come back. So he's out of a job in 2 years. He's got nothing else to do. He's definitely running. But JD Vance, I agree with you about JD Vance, and I like JD Vance, and I didn't like JD Vance in the beginning. I was like, I don't know, JD Vance, and man, is he well-spoken, well-versed, knowledgeable, smart,
steady guy. He's answered every question that they threw at them without getting his feathers ruffled, but rebuked them nicely. I was just like, you are suave, you're well-spoken and intelligent, and
so can I ask
it's
Doug?
Time to turn the page on MAGA, and we need Liz Cheney and Kinzinger. That would be the ticket. We will have the first white female president.
Thank you, Doug from Carr. A lot of DeSantis on the chat. Mehdi, DeSantis, Patrick Strauss, DeSantis, and Vance. I both like. Yeah.
Doesn't even have any like Newsom's probably their only, right? Like what other candidates?
I'm going to tell you who it's going to be. I'm going to tell you who it's going to be right now. I'm willing.
His personality translates.
Michael Obama.
No,
he just doesn't have that.
She doesn't want it, and I'm going to tell you who it's going to be right now. Josh Shapiro.
Yeah.
I like Josh Shapiro, and I'm a diehard conservative. Have you heard him?
He's great.
He's not bad. Honestly, as far as Democrats go, he's not bad. He's tolerable. You got to listen to him. He's out there stumping for Kamala. So
Canada then.
Huh?
I won't move to Canada then.
No, it'll be John Fetterman.
Ivan Carroll says Liz and Whoopi.
Fetterman is like Weekend at Bernie's.
Ben Shapiro. We have a vote for Ben Shapiro here from Lemmy Maldonado.
I don't think he'll ever run.
No. I like Vance. I like Vivek. And I like Glenn Youngkin.
I don't know anything about him.
And by the way, he's out of a job in 1 year as well, because in Virginia you only get to be in office for 1 term, and if you remember, he was elected in 2021. So he's done in 2025, and he's going to have plenty of time. He's definitely running. And he's a moderate Republican who appeals to Democratic voters. And if we want to do that move that way, he is your guy. If you want to go the MAGA route, I think you got to go with Vance and DeSantis. That's just a question of where the party's going to go.
Nobody's mentioned Romney or Jeb Bush.
My
word. Bring back the traditional Republican Party. You get Democrats and Republicans to unite.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Jimmy Carter, he could try and sneak in there,
He does have a term left, Jimmy Carter. Okay, so Doug from Carr, I'm going to ask you to take the blue hat off figuratively. You don't have to take it off physically. So be Doug, the conservative that I know and love. Who do you like from the Republican side past the Trump movement?
To go against Kelly, I'm sorry, Kelly, but it would be Vivek and Vance. VV, victory.
Ooh, that's good. I didn't even think about that. Vivek, Vance. I can see the posters now. That's a good one. Yeah. All right. You can go back to being Doug from Carr. You don't have to stay there that long there, Doug. It's good entertainment. But the thing that I think that even his most ardent opponents will admit when it's all over is the Trump thing was entertaining. That was my opening monologue. I think even his ardent opponents will say when he's gone, they are going to say, mark my words, in fact, I will go as far as to say this. You will hear this on CNN. The one thing the current Republican presidential candidate doesn't have that Donald Trump had was the fun factor. Guaranteed you're going to hear that on CNN because he is a fun person. He's fun. His fun gets him in trouble. He says things that are obnoxious and gets people all up in arms. And then the left-wing media takes something out of context and they reproduce it to, for another hoax that they want to produce. But he's fun. And he has brought so many people to the political process. I mean, the numbers of voters have gone up substantially 2016, 2020. And I think at this point, I don't know, I've been hearing the reports, we're going to be at an all-time voter tally, which we want. As a mayor, we want everybody involved in this process. I like that. And that is, I think, in large part due to Trump. He has brought so many people out of the woodwork to vote, to engage. He has also realigned the electorate. You had what was most shocking for me at the RNC was the Teamsters Union president speaking on the opening night of the RNC. My jaw dropped to the floor. I couldn't believe it. And you have this worker alliance, not the UAW, but the Teamsters and others who are now sliding over and waking up to the fact that the Trump realignment has been the party of the average American worker is now sliding to the Republicans, and the party of the elite corporate billionaires is sliding over to the Democrats. And that's been the realignment that we've seen. He's also completely upended the evangelical church. There's evangelicals who hate him. There's evangelicals who love him. There's Catholics who hate him, Catholics who love him, Jews who hate him, Jews who hate him, love him. I mean, this guy has been, if you're in the we're trying to get viewers and butts in the seats game with politics, Donald Trump is the Tiger Woods of politics, the out of left field, out of nowhere, not normal politician who has taken center stage and has dominated our minds for the last 10 years.
Absolutely true. If anything, no matter what, his legacy will be what he impacted in the political landscape. I remember when he was running, and I was like, "There is no way possible that this man becomes president."
There's
no way.
That's what I said.
And it was a joke. You thought it was funny.
My father was the first person I've met that supported him. Because I wanted Ted Cruz. I hate to admit that. I wanted Ted Cruz in 2016. And then my father's like, no, Donald Trump. And I'm like, well, he's not a Christian. And my father said, listen to what he says. And I started listening. And then my wife was all in on Trump. And then the Access Hollywood tape came out. This is my story. When I heard it, I turned to my wife and I said, I can't vote for this man. And she said, oh, you're going to vote for this guy. Who else are you going to vote for? And I was like, all right, you're right. And it's true because, there is no other choice if you're a conservative. And he's won over a lot of skeptics who thought he wasn't going to govern conservatively, and he did. I do have a problem with the Christian pastors, and I saw some on Twitter today, on X today, who said, I'm abstaining from voting because he's not 100% pro-life. I think that's just a stupid move. It's just a dumb move. It's a losing issue to be 100% pro-life at this point. You got to take the incremental wins wherever you can. Roe v. Wade being overturned is an incremental win. It's going back to the states, incremental win. I'm as pro-life as you get, but you're not going to get this country to outlaw abortion tomorrow. It's just not going to happen. And if you run on that, Trump said it. He's right. You're going to lose elections. I don't know.
Yeah, because if you don't vote, what's that?
That's the problem with your party. You eat your own. And, you just can't allow people to vote their conscience and do what they're wanting to do. And you shoot your own. And that's why you guys lose.
Thank you.
What are you doing about the pro-Palestinian protests going on around the corner from you? That's what I'm wondering. The pro-Palestinians, the gays for Gaza, you know what I mean?
Let's call that hypocrisy out, Doug from Carr.
Well, there's got to be a place for the Palestinian people, and you can't blame the Palestinian people for what Hamas has done. You got to separate the two.
So what about gays for Gaza?
Queers for Palestine.
I mean, they know what it's like to be marginalized. They know what it's like to be on the outside.
Okay. Moving on. We're going to close out. And the question I guess we could close out tonight with, and on the comments section as well, let me know, on the other side of the aisle, after all of this is over, should Kamala lose, because that's the only way you're going to get to another Democratic nominee. The problem with Kamala winning, and everybody listen, is the same problem with Barack Obama winning. Barack Obama was the first black president. There was no way we could let him lose his second term, right? She would be the first female president. So there would be no way they could let her lose her second term. So if she wins, it's 8 years. I'm telling you right now, take it to the bank. If she wins, it's 8 years. I said that the day after Barack Obama won, I was right. And it would be the same for her because it's the female thing now. The female thing. The first female can't have a one term and done. What would that say about women? So they'll prop her up, and she'll win a re-election. But say she loses, who's our choice on the other side? Who would we like from the Democrats? Who would we? And Doug from Carr, we'll start with you.
You guys already said Gavin Newsom. That's the guy.
Gavin Newsom? You like the slick, polished politician who says all the right things?
That's what we got. That's what we go with. That's what we roll with.
Who do we like, Brandon?
I literally can't think of anybody. You said Josh. I'll probably take your perspective on this. I mean, it doesn't help that we didn't have an actual nomination for the Democratic Party, and Kamala was just handed it. But I don't even really know of anything positive. I tried even looking at this before when it was happening, and there was nothing. Everybody was all 100% Biden. So I don't even know.
Well, the thing about Newsom is if we put him with Rashid Tlaib, we've got everybody.
Oh my gosh.
Rashid Tlaib, yeah. That's a good, very good. All right, I think we could close it out. Oh, no, wait, Kelly, go ahead. Who do you got? She doesn't want to say.
I don't know.
She can't even bring herself to say it.
I can't. No.
We got to do an electoral update real quick before we leave, though.
Yes, electoral update.
We officially
We didn't
closed
talk about
on
first 100 days.
We did not talk about
Ohio.
first 100 days, but what do we want to talk about that? First 100 days.
I think we do.
All right, well, first let's do electoral update here. What's the electoral update?
Ohio officially closed, red, which is good. That's maybe a little bit of a shocker.
Not really a swing state anymore.
We got Virginia is still the only one standing that might be
what did I say?
Shocker.
What did I say? It's the constant letdown. Virginia reels you in. It says you're going to get it this year. You're going to get it this year, and then Loudoun County comes and says, "Oh no, you're not." Georgia is looking good. Donald Trump up 70% in. Donald Trump 52.8. Kamala, let me go to the electoral. Kamala 46.6. 70% reporting. If we zoom in, a lot of the metropolitan areas also have already reported. So that does bode well for Trump's chances in Georgia. But remember, he can't just win Georgia. He's got to win North Carolina, and he's up right now, but it's 50% reporting with 50% of the vote. He has to win Pennsylvania or Wisconsin and Arizona.
Which they had some really good exit polls for Arizona.
Yeah. They've had some big voter trouble over there too with the ballots.
Where?
A radical difference. Arizona. There's a radical difference in what they're reporting between CNN and like a Fox News as far as what they're actually reporting. If you look, so CNN right now has Harris at 53, Trump at 154, and Fox News has Harris at 113 and Trump at 195.
And I've got over here on my Google map 177 to 99 Harris. Let me put it up on the screen again for everybody. 177 to 99 for Harris, 177 for Trump. But again, nothing noteworthy other than Georgia at 71%, Donald Trump at 52.3%. It went down 3.3% when the 1% came in. So Wisconsin only 5% in. Don't even look at that just yet. Virginia again and reeling us in, and then 50% in for North Carolina at 16 electoral votes, and it's 50.5% for Donald Trump. So
how much of Pennsylvania is in?
Pennsylvania is 24%.
You know, if Minnesota and Wisconsin holds, we don't need it.
Oh, if Minnesota and Wisconsin, of course. But where are we at with Minnesota? We are at 1% in. Wisconsin, 5% in. And Wisconsin, I'm sorry, I earlier said that it was a quick counter, but we had the guy on today saying it's a late counter. Remember, it's the overnight. Last time, 2020, it was the overnight switcheroo. Remember that? I woke up on Thursday and Wisconsin was called for Joe Biden, but Trump had been leading all day Tuesday, all day Wednesday. You wake up Thursday, and the ballot drop, the mail drops come in, and remember the little thing, whoop, 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 and Joe Biden takes the state.
But they don't have the same amount of early vote that they had last time.
Yeah, that's, again, what is the early vote for the Republicans cannibalizing for day of for the Republicans or the Trump voters?
But the Democrats don't have the same amount of early vote.
Yes, that's right. That's the good news. If you're a Trump supporter, that's the good news, and that's where you're.
Does COVID affect any of that? You know, because obviously it was COVID in 2020.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it affects it a little bit, for sure. I don't know how much. And it's about, what do you think? Women going to the polls more often than men? Who's got the energy? She's aiming at women. There's no doubt about it. He's aiming at young men. That's the election. It's a divided electorate along the gender spectrum. So what do we do? A gender spectrum, the gender binary. Who's going to show up is really what it comes down to. Now, I saw pictures on Twitter where people were showing up lines and lines of men, but I also saw people lines and lines of women. So it's who's showing up day of, because Brandon, you're right.
Tough to get the young men to show up.
That's what I was, that is my concern. You know, I think women are more doers in that way, that women will show up, because that's just kind of, I think, more in our natures maybe, and from what we have done to men in this country, and just, you know, it just takes them longer to.
I think there's too many radical policies for men to just stay completely silent. I knew that there was no way, again, this is somebody that's never voted in my life. There was no way that I could possibly not be a part of this, even though I'm in Massachusetts, and the sliver of hope that I ever have that the people around me actually open their eyes. But there is way too much on the line. They are so brazenly open about their transgender ideology, as far as how much they are willing to push that on the young, how much they're willing to have this happen in sports, and how much they're willing to put it into our prison systems. It's appalling, you know. And you've got Waltz, who's the
men being marginalized, though, from your perspective, you know, because men have been put down to, they have to, you know, kind of submit to women, and to that.
No, I think regardless, men will always have this innate nature to protect their own, and this election has come too close to heart to where you're like, no, there is something really messed up if this is going to turn the other way. I think people will be surprised with the amount of young male voters that have come out and actually voted this time around. I put the video up. Did you see the video of the 72-year-old woman who called in to C-SPAN, said that she's voting for the first time?
I did see that.
See that in the fold?
But those anecdotal things, I always don't put any stock. I don't put any stock in them, because it's anecdotal. For every person that calls into C-SPAN and says, first time I voted for Trump, You're going to get another person who says, first time I voted, and I have to vote for women's rights, so I voted for Kamala. And a lot of times, first-time voters are uninformed voters, so they're not entrenched right into the ideologues, the ideological categories, left and right. So they're single-issue voters. I'm coming out to vote. That's why Joe Rogan, as late as it was, his endorsement for Trump was great for the young male vote. That's his audience. My son listens to Joe Rogan all the time. It was late, but it was there. And maybe it was strategically late. Maybe I shouldn't get on Joe Rogan for that, because he was probably thinking young boys don't plan ahead. They go at the last minute. So let me give my endorsement the last minute and get them to the polls the next morning.
You knew he was gonna. They officially called Texas, by the way. There was no way that Rogan was going to vote for Kamala.
No, there was no way, no. No, but he endorsed RFK even after RFK dropped out of the race. That was the problem.
Sure.
Now, in the first 100 days.
Yeah, let's go. First 100 days.
We know what Kamala's going to do. She's going to go over her to-do list. And we know what Trump is going to do. He's going to be going over his enemies list. And you said he's only got 2 years, really. So, we in our party do not mind if Trump wins.
You don't? That was unexpected. Doug from Carr.
Because he's going to be done in 2 years, and he's going to spend all of his time on his enemies list. He won't get anything done.
But are you even going to let him get into office, Doug? Don't you have a plan?
Jamie Raskin said they're not going to let him in.
And well, we've still got lawsuits out there that we could keep him out.
I want to say a shout out to Vince Bowie on the chat. Anchor, good to see you, bro. Followed Pastor Tim from here, from your E&P channel. Thank you, Pastor Tim, for your channel and biblical truths. Love it. Keep it up, sir. Praying for our country tonight. Thank you, Vince. Woo!
Thanks, Vince.
What is this comment? The imported brand. If the Democratic Party wins, Christopher Street Day will be every day in America. It will be tough sledding for the conservative folks. What's Christopher Street Day? I've never heard of that.
We're about to get new knowledge, I guess.
Christopher Street Day. Never heard of it.
And then the imported brand also says, all my Europeans have been letting me know to vote smart. Eastern Europeans for Trump. The Western side is very divided. I think the Western side is very liberal. They're the ones letting the Muslims into the UK. They're the ones who are letting the Muslims run over Paris. Paris has been run over by Muslim migrants, really. Eastern Europeans, hard right. Is that true? You got Viktor Orban in Hungary. Trump's a big fan. The political left, not so much. Interesting in that Eastern European bloc is Ukraine. Nobody talks about them as a hard right nation, but interesting point of view. Christopher Street Day is an annual European LGBTQ celebration and demonstration held in various cities across Europe for the rights of the LGBTQ plus people. So it's basically Pride Day in Europe.
Right. Which, I mean, we're probably on a holiday that we just don't know about. Where's our holiday?
The holiday map.
There's got to be something.
We're in November. What is
gotta be
November?
something
November is LGBT History Month. I do know that.
Or is it October History Month?
No,
Wait,
I think it's November.
November?
Yeah, Pride Month is June. History Month is November. And there's a couple of weeks somewhere around the months where it's Lesbian Week. They get 2 weeks, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Lesbian celebration weeks. I don't know. They take over the calendar, friends. Well, first 100 days.
You're just homophobic.
What are we hoping for first 100 days? Brandon, go.
Oh, first 100 days, Trump's going to actually secure the border. I think he's going to find a policy that allows immigrants to come here legally. I think that there has to be a revision there. You can't just deport 20 million people without provisions put in place. I know he's saying deport everyone. I think he's going to have to come up with a plan, because I don't see people physically getting round up and sent over. There's got to be something. I don't think that there's amnesty, but I think that there's got to be a policy. Close the border. That's 100. That's for sure. I think he's got to really do a move to show us that he can handle the economy. So the gas prices are probably going to drop. I'd like to see the interest rates kind of level out. That would be nice. I don't think that he's going to persecute people because he's got too many people in his ear telling him that that's not a good move. I do see that there's going to be a lot of interference in terms of him getting into office. So we already mentioned, was it Raskin was the guy saying that they're not even going to approve it. So I know that there's going to be some legal issues that he's got to get through, and a lot of liberal tears. First 100 days.
Liberal tears.
Kelly, what do you think? First 100 days.
First thing he's going to do when he gets in office is something with the border. That has to be the first thing. If we see the wall go back up, we need to see deportations. We need to see stay in Mexico to be resumed so that, when legal immigration is done, that they wait in Mexico until they are allowed. Something to do with the backlog. I mean, we have like 10 years of backlog of people that are waiting to have legal citizenship. So that has to be taken care of. And I think he needs to do something immediately with all the DEI initiatives in the schools, the LGBT agenda, that has to be taken care of immediately. I think those two things. I don't think he's going to do anything with abortion. That went back to the states. That's really where it should be. He needs to cut federal funding for that, which I think maybe we'll see him do. And I would love to see him put in things to just secure religious freedoms. So in all of the different rights bills, to add in that exemption for religious choice, and the same thing with vaccines. So I'd love to see him go after the COVID vaccine shenanigans that went out, and to see some type of recourse there.
Shut down,
getting rid of like the Rachel Levines and all of that.
Shut down the HHS. Shut down the FDA. I'm with Vivek. Shut it down. Why do we even have these bureaucratic monsters? Department of Education, started by Jimmy Carter. What has it done? It's like the war on poverty. All it's done is increased poverty. I say shut down as many governmental bureaucracies. The swamp has got to go. He said he would drain the swamp the first time. He didn't do it. He has to do it the second time. Close the border, drain the swamp. Those are the first two priorities on my radar for the first 100 days. Now, wait a minute, Doug. Is this Doug from Carr or Doug?
No, this is Doug.
All right, Doug.
Doug from Carr left the room.
All right.
We need a cap on credit card interest rates. He talked about that. I think that's a great idea because people are really struggling after this inflation that we had, and they've got a lot of money on those credit cards. And we need universal constitutional carry around the country, so that you're not turned into a criminal just because you drive over to Rhode Island or you drive over to Connecticut. So those two things, those are important. And he can do those in the first days.
All good ideas, all of them. And we'll end our conversation on that. Thank you guys for being here tonight. Doug from Carr, split personality, Kelly, Brandon, and Brent, who had to leave us early. So glad to have you guys on the show. And with that in mind, it's time for me to also sit back, relax for the night, and watch the polls come in. Thanks for joining me. Make sure you leave a like on the video. That's very important. Leave a like on the video. Oops.
This is correct.
Don't worry about
Jesus
that.
Come.
Leave a like on the video, and I'll see you soon. But that's been the election night for 2024 on the deep end. Like, subscribe, notification bell. Take care.